I am a trans woman, and that is a lot to do with my experience. Me getting conceived in itself is strange. My dad recalls like hooking up with my mom the old-fashioned way in a car in the middle of the woods by the lake. He was like, I see a light of the car over the car, and I feel strange. Whoa. And he was like, I think you're gonna get pregnant, but you're not gonna have any more kids. And that's what he's always said to me. And my mom was like, you're crazy. And she was on birth control at the time. Later in life, she tried to actually conceive after they had like separated, and try to get pregnant. But she had really messed up fallopian tubes, so she could never conceive. Actually, they were like, I'm surprised you could have a kid in the first place. But she did give birth to me and get pregnant while being on birth control. He did say that there was a light that chased him down the road towards my grandma's house where we live. Whoa. And it stopped in a patch in the field, and he stared at it, and he said it just went straight upwards in the sky.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you were like when you were a child?
And I was often going on adventures with my friend who no one else could see. My mom would be like, oh, where did my child go? I don't know where, she'd be looking through the house, and I would be in my closet. It was like weird because I just wanted to go in there, and then I would go on these adventures with my friend. I would do this with these people that were blue looking and would come back, and they've showed me like just meadows of the beautiful flowers in different places. Like that's what I recall like distinctly, going to these places. And then as I got older, not being able to do this anymore.
This is not by any means the first time we've had a guest on this show that mentioned blue beings. You're like the 4th or 5th out of 9 guests now who's mentioned blue beings. It's kind of wild. Hello and welcome to Fire in the Cosmos. We're here today with a friend of mine, young Brinson. She has been grateful enough to join us for her first interview on what she has gone through. Young was the former senior program manager for the Native American Lands Environmental Mitigation Program, NALEMP, through the Department of Defense. She is Afro-Indigenous and an enrolled member of the Ciru'ehá, the Nottoway tribe of Virginia. Specializing in tribal law, federal grants management, and federal Indian policy, she has worked extensively in tribal financial management as a subject matter expert for the Tribal Capacity Building Center with the Office of Child Care, tribal discretionary grants as the team lead at the Administration for Native Americans, and tribal education as a biology psychology teacher. Young holds a master's in tribal law from the University of Oklahoma College of Law, along with a bachelor's of arts in women, gender, and sexuality studies from the University of Richmond. Passionate about decolonization, the environment, UAP, NHI disclosure, language, and identity, she is committed to Indigenous, Black, Brown, and planetary liberation. As an experiencer and advocate, Young currently enjoys serving as the Virginia State Coordinator co-lead of the New Paradigm Institute's Citizen for Disclosure with me. Welcome, Young, and thanks again for doing this.
Thank you.
My goodness, that is extraordinary. I'm looking forward to digging into your qualifications and experience, but even more so outside of your career, all of the experiences that you've had, Young. And we're really touched that you chose to do your first podcast interview with us. Thank you so much for doing that, because we know this is a heartfelt experience for you and somewhat vulnerable. So, Young, we're going to get into a lot of different things that you've experienced in your life, but we wanted to start with essentially where you began in this life with all of these interesting experiences, meaning your unusual paranormal spiritual experiences. So what we like to do is start with what you were like when you were a child. So can you tell us a little bit about what you were like? It doesn't even have to be specific experiences you had. Just how would you describe yourself as a kid?
Well, I've always loved learning, and my grandma, because I was with her a lot, I always say that I really like to read and like just be spelling different things all the time. And I would always say, I was like, oh, I want to work for NASA. I want to go to MIT. I just wanted to do all these things.
Ooh.
And I was obsessed with the ocean and mermaids. I loved mermaids my whole life. because I just wanted to escape from this reality. But I love to be outside all the time, and I was often going on adventures with my friend who no one else could see, because my mom would like be like, "Oh, where did my child go?" I don't know where. She would be looking through the house, and I would be in my closet, and it was like weird because I just wanted to go in there, and then I would go on these adventures with my friends. So I would do this with these people that were blue looking, and would come back, and they've showed me like just meadows of the beautiful flowers in different places. Like that's what I recall like distinctly, going to these places. And then as I got older, not being able to do this anymore, like not being able to go there. But I was always obsessed with just anything outside, loved being and looking at the stars all day. I was like, I know I'm not from this planet. And anyone who doesn't think that I'm not as crazy, because I'm like, I feel so different than these people. I was like, I'm so different. And I happen to be, I'll just self-disclose because I know there's going to be people on here, but I am a trans woman. And that is a lot to do with my experience, because my mom, before I was born, she knew she was having a girl. And I was born, and they put me in pink immediately when I was born in the hospital, because at first she had no idea what she was like, what did I have? But I still went home in pink. Me getting conceived in itself is strange. I wish I could record my dad and give to you too, because he has the whole little storyline. But he recalls like hooking up with my mom the old fashioned way in a car, in the middle of the woods by the lake. And he was like, there's a light. He was like, I see a light of the car over the car, and I feel strange. Whoa. And he was like, I think you're going to get pregnant, but you're not going to have any more kids. And that's what he's always said to me. And my mom was like, you're crazy. And she was on birth control at the time. And later in life, she tried to actually conceive after they had like separated, and try to get pregnant. But she had really messed up fallopian tubes, so she could never conceive. Actually, they were like, I'm surprised you could have a kid in the first place. But she did give birth to me and get pregnant while being on birth control, which is strange. And when he would come to see me, he did say that there was a light that followed him or chased him down the road towards my grandma's house where we live. Whoa. And it stopped in a patch in the field. And he stared at it, because he used to ride his motorcycles back then, because he has one leg now because of an accident. But he stared at it, and he said it just went straight upwards in the sky. And he was like, that was just strange. So little things like this, just as, peripherally around my life as a child, and just things I would see. Other than going on these special adventures, I was with my cousin Courtney once. I was deathly afraid of spiders as a child. And then later in life, I figured out why. But I was awoken in the middle of the floor on pallets, because I used to sleep on pallets on my grandma's floor with my cousins, because we would always be out there. And a spider woke me up in the middle of my sleep, like it was on my neck, and I threw it and I screamed. I was like a little, baby. And my cousin Courtney wakes up and she's like, what's going on? And I'm like, well, a spider was on me. I'm deathly afraid. And of course, I did a ritual every night, like looking through every corner before I went to bed. So I thought I had checked them all. And I flung it, and then I was awake. It was like 11:30 at night. And me and Courtney wanted to just go play at this point, because as kids, you just like have all this ample energy anyways, and like you just dissociate from the fright as soon as you're like, nope, let's go play now. So I got like one of them big old fashioned cameras from my granddaddy's, like little where he keeps it in my grandma's house. It's like one of the fat looking flashlights that are red with a handle. They're like old fashioned. And we were like, let's go explore in grandma's house at nighttime. Okay. Which we know this house in and outward. So I don't know why we were going to explore, but that's just what we did. And we go into the kitchen, right? And this is before our kitchen's renovated. So it's like a blue and yellow kitchen, and it's got an older stove, with the electric swirls on the top. And we're going in there, and I'm looking at the stove with Courtney, my cousin. And I'm like, Courtney, do you see that? And a bug starts coming from underneath the stove. Okay. There's just one. Then there was more. Then it started to be like a trove of bugs that proceeded to come from underneath her stove, like my grandma's stove, like centipedes and all different types of bugs. And we were like, what is going on? So we were like, what do we do? Like, I don't know. I don't want to touch them. And we were like, okay, well, we can't wake up our grandparents. That's just not happening. We were like 8 or so. And So we got the raid, we got the swatters, and we put our shoes on and we started smashing them all. Like we were just like going for it and spraying them. We're like, we got to do this. So we do it. And then we were like, I don't know, there might be more. So we run into where we were sleeping. There's like, it's called the den, but there's a bathroom in there. And we run into the bathroom and shut the door. And we're like, what is going on? How are we going to tell grandma? Because her floor is nasty. And it's got all that stuff on there. You know, she freaks out because she's got OCD. And she's like, I don't know. My cousin's, no. I guess, well, let's just go out in there and clean it. Well, we open the door. It is bright outside. It's daytime now, somehow.
Whoa.
It was 11:30, and then it was like 8 a.m.
Wow.
And
How
I'm
old
like,
were
what
you?
is happening?
How old were you?
Like 8 or 9-ish, maybe. Like we were younger, I know, but we were like we were fully aware and like walking around and stuff. So I'm like, wait, I don't need this flashlight, I guess. And I go into the kitchen with Courtney. Okay. I look there with her. We were staring straight at the floor because there's nothing there. There's nothing there. And I'm like, oh, I know what happened here. My grandma, because again, she has insomnia. She's always awake and she's a OCD cleaner. So she probably just got up and cleaned it. Well, I see my granddaddy come in. He's like, hey, Suge, like, what's going on? And I'm like, well, granddaddy, did you see all them bugs? Like, did you clean them up like that were there last night? Because me and Courtney we saw them and we just killed them and we left them there. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. No. He's like, maybe your grandma did. So then I hear my grandma coming back up from, her nightgown coming out. And she's like, what's going on? And I'm like, did you get up and clean these bugs? And she's like, no, what are you talking about? And then I'm like, my eyes widen and I look at Courtney and I'm like, what is going on? Like, are you lying?
Yeah, the
I'm
fact
like,
that
Grandma,
you and Courtney both saw the same thing, you both had the same experience, that makes it extra interesting. Because then for
yes.
sure it's not like you dreamt it or you imagined it or whatever. I mean, there are two people
Nope.
who both saw the same thing. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So
and I can record her and put her on here too, because she will say the same thing. Because we talk about this also a lot because it was so bizarre. And we were like, what is with the deal with the bugs? Why the bugs? I don't know. And how did it go from 11:30 to 8 a.m.? No idea.
Do you know what kind of bugs they were? Sorry, Anthony. Do you know what kind of bugs they were?
They were like just different ones. It looked like, honestly, the way I can just frame it for everyone is like a bug, like a Timon and Pumbaa and the Lion King. When there's like all those little bugs when they open up the logs and stuff, and they're just
okay.
They're just like a whole plethora of different bugs, like centipedes, cockroaches, crickets, spiders. Like they were just like all of them were coming out. Like I was like, does she have like a crack in the wall that we didn't know about? I was like, because that's what we thought when we were killing them with the raid, and then to have her sit there and say in front of us like, oh no, there was nothing there, that blew my mind.
Interesting.
Wow. Yeah, I mean that has elements of like paranormal experiences, but also the missing time piece is fascinating.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you actually were up all night, or did your body feel normal? Like were you tired at all, or?
It was like we were just awake, like we had just woken up at 11:30 still. Like, like we were rested because I think we went to bed at like, kids, we have bedtime. So we went to bed like earlier, like probably around like 7 p.m., 7:30. Because that's when grandma, back then, she would go to bed. And yeah, we woke up at just 11:30-ish. And then it was all of a sudden daytime. So I felt like I was like, oh, we're just going to continue. And we just continue throughout the day, and again, kids with ample energy. So we were like, it was very strange.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I mean, I hear you saying that, as a child, you were very connected. Like you had this invisible friend, you had these unusual experiences and senses. It sounds like you were also very sensitive. You knew you felt different. You didn't feel like you were part of whatever normal was. So did you, to kind of just give the audience like a little bit of a snapshot of who you are and then leading from childhood to now, do you feel like you kept that connection with the, whatever you'd call it, spirit, the paranormal? Do you feel like that kept on in your life, or did it go away and then you had to get it back? Because that's very common for a lot of people, right? That we're very connected as children and then we lose it as we become conditioned by the external world. We start becoming more focused on what's outside of us rather than inside of us. And then we either never get that sensitivity back or we try to chase after it and regain it. What was your experience of that?
Well, definitely, because I feel some of that, like, because just for me being, again, like a trans kid, and like back then it was like I didn't even think I could transition, even though I knew I was a girl always. Like my grandma used to make me fake like straw yarn hair, and like I would wear her shoes, like she would, like, and like I had all these Barbies, like I was like obsessed, and I knew I was a girl. And then I went to kindergarten, and of course that's when you're first policed, just by other kids, right, who have been policed by their parents, who are not like your family, right? And society has these pressures, so then you start wanting to conform to be like, oh, I can't be me, I can't do these things. So I began to stop telling people what I would see, and just keep it to myself, because I was like, oh, they're just not going to listen. They're going to gaslight me, think I'm crazy, or just sideline me. So, and I'm like, and then, just being a kid that's brown and being in a school that's predominantly white, when I was like in high school, for instance, and like just in general, like most schools, I just was like, I got to be the best at school, since they're going to bully me for all these other things. Well, you're not going to take away my intelligence, and I'll be smarter than you. So that's what I focused on, so that I could always one up them. And, like from my childhood, then like having these experiences again, like I had the major experience with my mom when I was 13 or 14. So it's like it did keep up, because I saw what I saw that day. And and I don't have to go into that now if you don't want me to, but I can.
Please. Yeah, by all means.
Specifically, yeah. So because we were moving a lot, because my stepdad was in the military. So we lived in Fayetteville actually for a little while. Like my phone number used to be a 910 number for a long time. And then
for those who are not aware, Fayetteville's in North Carolina.
Yes, sorry, it's in North Carolina. I was born in Pamlico, North Carolina, which is on the coastline by the water. And I think we were coming back home, or we still lived in the trailer at the time, because my mom lives in a trailer in Pamlico down there. But I usually was always at my grandma's house, because my mom had me when she was 19. So she was really early, like really young. And I would always be at my grandma's house, or my aunt's house. And I think she was picking me up and bringing me back home, because it was in the summertime and it was in the middle of the day. And we were driving down Scotttown Road, which is where my grandfather built my grandma's and their family's first house, was on this same road, actually. Deep in Arapahoe. And Cherry Point is at the end. If you go down where we live and you immediately will hit the beach, like Minnesota Beach, because it's like right on the coast, right? And then you can take a ferry to Havelock, and that's where Cherry Point is. It's right across there.
And that's a military base, right?
It's a Marine base, like a Marine military base. And then
Marine
Jacksonville
base.
is the one that people know the most. Jacksonville, North Carolina is where the big like Camp Lejeune is, right? And so we were coming up to this road, and it's a T road. So there's a stop sign, and you can go left or right. Left, we go back to Bayboro. The right, you'll go to Arapahoe, down to the county where we live in the middle of the woods. There was just freshly planted trees there, and I believe they were pine trees, but they had the stuck in the ground with them, and you could see over the tree line. We pulled up to the stop sign, my mom's red Escort, which I also drove until I wrecked it. And I looked at my mom, and she has a tattoo of my name like on her arm, and she had like shorter hair, and she always dyes her hair red wine, like wine red. And if you ever want to think about what my mom looks like, well, in my mind, it's Xena Warrior Princess. Like they almost look exactly like. But we stopped up to the stop sign, and I had a flip phone, then a blue one. And I remember I was like texting on it, or playing like one of them little games that used to come on it. And I'm looking at my mom, because she's like pulling up to the stop sign. She's looking left to right, and I get this weird tingly feeling inside that I sometimes get when I'm around them, these beings or whatever. And I look up, and like right above the stop sign, and because it's huge, because it's very close, there is a circular ship. It is black seamless metal. It has a row of lights on the outer perimeter. Then they are alternating colors, and they're like an emanation of color that's like kind of like like a strobe, how it can switch. You can change the tempo to make it very slow, like it alternates colors at a slow rate.
Yes.
Well, that's what it's like around the outer perimeter. Around the inner perimeter was a whiter lights, and then a center bright light. Like it was very bright, but it was easy to see from me because my mom, she's like, oh, I just saw a light. But I have told this countless times, like to so many people, and everyone knows because I know what I saw, and that's what she saw. But we were there together, so I'm glad again that she saw it when we were there. She at least saw it, but I saw all the details. So I saw all of what it was, and it was a black seamless again circular craft. It was like as close to like when you're on a street and you look at an electric pole and you look up, like it's very close, and it took up the road because it stretched over into across the tree lines where we could see, like it was huge.
Wow.
And
like if you were to estimate like what size that is, what would you say?
I don't know, like to me, like because I was
fields.
Like I was 14. I'm like, and I'm trying to think of like like how it was from the car, like what it would be like. Cause when you see a plane coming down, they're big, but when they're getting lower, they still look big, but they're still kind of small looking, but they're huge, right?
Yeah.
It's at least had to be as big as a plane,
Okay.
like a lot, like a big plane, like huge, like it had to be huge because it took up so much of the road and then over into the tree line. Like it was just right there. And
middle of the day, right? Just
in the middle of the day, there is no denying this because it was literally in the middle of the day. I'm looking at it. There is no sound at all. There is nothing. There's no sound. And I'm like, my eyes, I could feel my pupils just like expand, right? Because I'm engorging this and seared into my mind, right? I'm like looking at this. And I turned to my mom, like, Mom, I knew it. I was like, I just knew it. And I'm like, do you see this? And she's looking and she's like, yeah, and she's like, not really saying anything. Like she looks like she's kind of stunned.
Oh, wow. Okay.
She's just staring. Like she's just like, yeah, And what's interesting to me, because this is a very trafficked road, like the cross street, not Scotttown where we pulled up at the stop sign, because the ferry's right there, a lot of people traffic this, right? There's no one. There's no one coming. It is just us in this time. And I'm just staring at it. And I ask her, I'm like, Mom, what are we going to do now? I'm like, are we supposed to go? Like, what do we do? And she's like, I don't know. And then I'm like, okay. And then as I'm looking, because I'm trying to peer to like look around and look up and around to see how much more I can see of this, because of the angle. So I'm looking out the front of the front view mirror of the car, not the mirror, but the windshield. And I'm looking and I can see from my angle, like if I'm looking at it, like, and if I'm looking like right here, if like this is how it is, right? Like, like when stuff is kind of in this specific angle, you can see the bottom and kind of the top, but not really the top.
Yeah.
You can peer. So I peered and I can see that there's lenticular shape specifically because there's a little bit of a raise going upwards, but I don't see any indication of a window. I don't see, then there's no rivets, there's no bars, there's no barbs, there's no nothing electronic looking on this. It's just seamless to me.
Wow.
And I'm looking at it, and as I'm looking at it, and after I just said what I said, right, just like a Frisbee, when you throw it and it spins before it finally stops, it moved at a super fast rate like this. And like it did like this, like it wobbled. And then it shot across this tree line, like shoot, and it disappeared. Like it was just gone, just like that. And then I turned to my mom and I'm like, what? And she was like, that was weird. And then we just turned and went about our day. But this was nothing.
Wow.
Yeah, there's so many different aspects of that are, I mean, it's a highly unusual experience, right? But it's funny how when you get into this field, you start talking to people who have had experiences, it becomes more normal. You start to see the patterns of commonality, between all these experiences that people have. So I'm noticing things like there was no sound. I'm noticing that, there's no cars there. This is a common thing, right? People have said this so many times. I was in this populated area. Nobody was there. How does that make any sense? And I saw this and no one else was there to witness it with me. And then also the way your mom was kind of stunned or hypnotized and kind of not really able to engage with you. She was just staring at this. That's another marker that's common with people. I mean, there's so many things about what you're saying that just if you're a researcher in ufology, it's like, yep, check, 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 check. Like that was something, a UAP of some kind. I'm intrigued. Actually, Anthony, what do you think about the fact that it was close to Cherry Point? I'm Canadian. I'm not as familiar with how, like, the military, the US is much more militarized than Canada is, but there's this extremely high number of UFO sightings that are seen around military bases. And lots of people theorize that the military has perhaps created them, right, from back engineering crashed UFOs. What do you think that sounds like, Anthony? Does it sound like it's from somewhere else, or maybe possibly from the government? What do you think?
I have no idea. I mean, there's so many claims about reverse engineering, obviously, but obviously there's a lot of claims that say we haven't actually been able to do it. So I don't know. But Young, you said you talked to your mom about this recently, right? To try to see what she remembers, and you said she had a bit of a different recollection, but she also brought up the military base, right?
Yep. Yep. So my mom, because I've told her this a million times, I recounted this because I'm like, and it's for me to like be like, it's like also self-soothing almost, because it's kind of traumatizing, right? Because you're like, I know what I saw. And I'm like, I don't know how to do this, but say this a million times because I know it's something so novel to me, right? And she's like, and I've told her this a million times. I've told my grandma, I've told like my best friend, I've told everybody. And I'm like, this is exactly what I saw. And she's like, well, I just saw like a bright light, like it was just a light there, like just there, right, above the tree line. And I was like, well, what's the shape? And she's like, I guess it's circular because that's kind of what the light's like, but that's all I saw. And then when I texted her recently, I was like, why have you always said that you agreed and now you're not wanting to? And she was like, you're trying to make something else up. And she's like, no, this is just what I've always saw. Like, I know you saw this because you've told me so many times, but this is what I saw. I just never like contested you because I didn't need to, because I know you saw what you saw. This is what I saw, but I was there. It's not like I wasn't, like, I'm invalidating because I was there. I saw something too. And it's clear, and I'm like, and she was older. That's the thing. She's older at that time than me. So that's what I think is interesting too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like, well, just because, and I, even though I was coherent, that's why I'm able to describe all this, it's like, why does she see something not in full of detail like I did?
Totally.
But also can observe the same effects that I heard, which was nothing. There's nothing there. You didn't hear anything, right? And it's like, I'm like fully like, do you not, like, how do you not see this? Like, this is crazy. Like, it's like if I saw someone with a red hat and like they walked past both of us, and then all of a sudden you're saying, oh no, I don't know, I think she was wearing like a baseball cap. No, that there was a hat, but like this is the hat that she was wearing. Like, I know for a fact what it was. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Which is
there's so much that could be responsible for that. I mean, we just interviewed a friend of Sinead's, Dahlia, who spoke about the right hemisphere of the brain, the left hemisphere, and how that can change with time, and how it's easier, for example, to teach kids some of these more psi or telepathic capacities. And I think there's a definite connection there with access to other ways of receiving information, including possibly how we quote unquote see or perceive UFOs, whatever they are, or the anomalous. And you're right, I do think age and other factors as well can play a role in how and what we perceive. That's very spot on. I wanted to ask you, Young, you said you were playing a game on your phone. Do you remember like going back to that game? If there was any sense of missing time, did you remember if you picked up right where you left off? Or
I'm curious about that too. Yeah.
Because I recently was talking to my friend Kate, who Anthony knows, about this, because even in my hypnotic regression, like there's just, sometimes it's like flashes of things, like, I don't know, with like different things that I've done, like, or trying to like remember as much as possible. I keep trying to like remember what I was doing. And when it's that feeling that I get, it's like a weird tingly feeling all the time. I just cannot remember what game I was playing, but I swear that when I first looked, like my eyes met this UFO, like I saw it, right? I swear, even though I heard nothing audible with my ears, I heard a tone in my head. And I don't know, because that's the only new like piece that I'm like trying, because I've analyzed what I was seeing millions of times, trying to find what else was happening at the time that I noticed. And I don't know why it is, but that's the only thing like additional that I can recall is like, I swear I heard a tone or something in my head, but I did not hear a physical sound of this craft at all.
And you did say, I knew it. Did you, when you said that, did you mean like you connected it to those blue beings you saw when you were a child? Also, by the way, this is not by any means the first time we've had a guest on this show, even before Sinead came on, that mentioned blue beings. This is probably like literally you're like the fourth or fifth out of 9 guests now who's mentioned blue beings. That's kind of wild.
Right? It is weird because I'm like, I always just call them the blue beings because I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what they are. They never told me who they are, and I'm not going to inflate or speculate on who they are because they obviously don't want me to know because they would have told me, right? But since I went on these adventures with my friends who were blue as a kid, and just my inherent like feeling that I do not belong here, and my obsession with like paranormal and just anomalous things in general, like since I was little, because I was like, this is cooler than this life that y'all are trying to force me into that hates me, right? Because this is who I am. This is who I am not. It's not this crazy place where I'm boxed in or forced to conform to some reality that's not truly real to me at all. Because I'm like, real reality for me is where everyone's accepted and I like we live together and it's not like this, right? Like, so I was just always very drawn away from that. And like, it made me very introverted as a kid because of that all the trauma that I received and all these things. So I was like, oh no. As soon as I saw, I was like, every day that I was outside playing on my trampoline, looking up at the sky or going outside just because I'm like, I know there's someone calling me out there. You know, I would do all different types of things as a kid. I knew that I wasn't from here. And I was like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, I knew it. I knew it for a fact. It like hit me in my head. I was like, you can't lie to a pattern recognizer. No, 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 no.
Wow. Last question, and then I'll let Sinead ask a few because I don't want to forget this. So, what, like, did you feel with those blue beings or your blue friends? Did you feel this sort of kinship with them in a way where you felt maybe more like they knew you for who you actually are, and you knew them? Like, were you telepathically connected in a way where you didn't have to talk about things?
Yes. And that's the thing that's weird that you say telepathic because I mean that's the only way they can describe it for them to know you like that because like in my hypnotic regressions that I've done and I saw more of them, they let me see more of them, not fully all of their being where they led me into because it was like it was underwater. It's like an upside down chandelier down there. A door opened and I went in. There was a room to the left that was dark that lit up. It was a long, windy hallway that curved around and then into a bigger auditorium that was white. And this is a long story that I'm just going to cut short because I can give y'all the full details because I have like all this recorded too.
But we'd love to get into that. Like, yeah, for sure. The regression. Yeah, that's fascinating.
Just because like anytime like when I saw that UFO with my mom, like I got very emotional too. Like while I was excited and like asking her these things, I was like very, very emotional. Like because it made me want to cry, and when I talk about it, it makes me want to cry because it's just like a happiness I can't describe. Like it's like crying when you're happy and you see your grandma and it's been a long time and you've had a hard time at school and you just need your grandma. It's like that kind of feeling. And in my regression, because of course when they tell you this, it was my first time doing it, I was like, I feel like I'm making this up, like this feels weird. Like, they're like, oh, that's normal. That's normal. You're going to feel weird at first. And I'm going back and it's like, I'm in the water. And when I recall memories, cause I don't know, I can feel things or when I see these things, I can feel it. Like in my dreams, I feel things. I feel the temperature. It's like, I'm really there. Right. So I'm this, I don't know how this happened or why it constructs this way, but a whale brought me to them and how this was led up and like his questioning. I don't know why. But there was an upside down chandelier. I noticed a blue glint, like when I looked down and when I was in the water and I dived down. I don't know how to open the door. There's a door, and there's a specific tone that opens the door. So I said it, because, and then I go in, right? The water dissipates. There's a white hallway. There is, and I'm like kind of like crawling on the floor. And I think in my hypnoregression, I was like, am I a mermaid? Like, I don't know. Like, I think that's what I described. I can't remember all of it anymore, but like from like what I actually said, but I think that's what it was, because it just felt weird and I was wet the whole time because there was, and I was like, it's like I was trudging on the floor. Like I was just crawling for some reason. And I don't know if they were it was because they were trying to show me, since it's like for me to remember, like from my childhood height, maybe like to recall like these memories and become very detailed for me. But I was on the floor anyways, nevertheless. I was like literally sliding on the floor, and I saw a room to the left that was dark. I go into the room because I have some curiosity about this room, and I see the blue light in there underneath something. It looks like a desk that's coming out of the wall or something, like a table. And there's a window that I can see into the ocean. And I was like, oh, this must be what I saw. And I see this equipment in the room. I see it looks simple, but weird. I don't know how to describe it. There's like a hose on the end of one that's like, it looks like something Apple would make, honestly, like, to be real. Like, because it's just so, how it's very seamless and plain, like how they make a lot of their products, like that's their sell, like the simpleness. It looked like a little, I don't know, like a tubey little, like skinny tube with like a detachment to it that attached to like a bigger stand-up piece. I don't know how to describe this because it's just a novel looking contraption. And I notice that the table, because as soon as I'm walking into the room, and I feel at first like strange, and then the light comes on. And the table's attached to the wall. Like, how sometimes buildings, they'll build them out of the wall to make it more seamless for people. And I noticed like some writing on the wall and then script I don't understand, or I don't know what it is. And I'm like, I get the feeling I'm not supposed to be in here for a reason. I don't know why. I just feel like I'm not supposed to be in there. So I leave, like I'm crawling back out. And again, I don't know why I never stand up or get up. But again, we're just, we're rolling with it. So I'm going around the curve. And then as I'm turning to the right, it opens into like almost like an auditorium where it's a bigger white space. And this is all white this whole time. It's like blind. But then there's like, I noticed like an auditorium steps going up. There's not very many, but there's a couple. And it's just plain. And then to my left, there's it looks like a giant coffee table that's been filled in to make a giant rectangular block. And for some reason, I don't want to look over there. Like I feel weird. Like I'm very apprehensive. And he's leading me further, he's like asking me questions, like, cause it's like, I'm there and he's my mind. He's my voice in my head now, my hypnotic regressionist. Right.
What kind of questions was he asking?
He was like, well, what do you notice about the room? Why don't you want to look? What's strange? Like, where do you want to find out what's over there? Right. Like, do you want to find out what's going on or what's behind it? Cause I was like, I kept saying like, I feel something is over there, but I don't see anything. Right. I was like, maybe something's behind the wall. Right. But then I noticed like a slit. It's like a plane. And this remind you, this room and what I'm sliding on and everything, the texture feels like the underground pool, like the in-ground pool. The white texture, like this. It's like it's slippery, but it's like that pebbly, but it's kind of smooth,
like a popcorn ceiling type texture.
Yeah, like almost like that. It's like just a smooth texture, like that. But it has, to me, it feels like some graininess or something. If that's the best way I can describe it, it's like looking at that, and it's like kind of the shape of the room is like kind of organically shaped, but it's defined,
Mm-hmm.
But out of the wall, because I didn't know there was a door there, it just like a slit appears, and then I see an orange light, like shining through it, like a little bit. And he's like, "Oh, do you want to go in?" And I'm like, I'm at this point, I'm like, there's major trepidation. Like, I'm like, I don't know. Like, it's just my guts, feels like it's wrenching. Like, I want to know, but I don't want to know. But then you ultimately want to know,
Mm-hmm.
So I crawl and I open the door, and it's like a little smaller rectangular-ish room behind this door that's come out the wall, right? It's like, it looks like a seamless wall, but I know that there's something there behind this wall, even if I can't see it. But I open it, I go in, it's bright orange, and I get this tingly feeling again, like I usually feel. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, what is this room for? And all I hear is immediately sanitation. And I'm like, okay, well, where do I go? Because I'm like, I know that it's like I enter. So like, if this is the wall, right? This is the door. I like go in, and then it's like a small little square room. So I'm like, I can eat. There's a wall here and a wall here, right? I'm like, where do I go? Like, there's no, but I know that there's something behind the side. So I turn, and then in my mind, because it's like doubled, right? I get a imprint of a hand like that, and it's to put it on the wall. So I do this, the wall slides to the right. Okay. As soon as it slides, it is bright white like the rest of the rooms that hallways and rooms that I was in, but there's fog or a mist in this room. It's misty, and I can see that that wall that I noticed that I didn't want to look at is like a two-way mirror or something, where they could see, but I couldn't see, but I knew they were there. I noticed something standing in the back. And at this point, and in my regret, I get very emotional. Like I'm kind of like freaking out. And because I'm on the floor and I don't know, again, sliding around, I don't know why. I still, like it's like hard for me. I noticed they look taller, and I think it's because I'm on the floor. So I don't really know their actual height, but they look tall. And it's like that misty look, so you can see the figure, but you don't know the details until they start coming forward, right? Well, and then it starts to strike me like hard, like I start getting very emotional. Like I start like breaking down, and then a hand starts coming towards me. That's what it looks like, right? And it's skinny.
Wow.
And there's only 4 fingers, and it reaches out like this. And I am looking down, and I'm freaking out, like I'm starting to cry, like I'm freaking out. But it's like, oh, am I really here right? Like, is this happening right now? I'm like, where I'm like seeing them again, like fully. Like it's like that. It's like a wrenching emotional feeling of happiness, and like, where have you been? But why is this occurring? And I know that they knew, this being knew that I wanted to touch their hand, which is why they came forward, because that's immediately what I did, was touch it, because I wanted to touch it. And then I got emotional, like I was like crying, but it felt very smooth, almost like a dolphin. And they were blue. It was like a blue. And underneath the fingertips, because they were very long, like it looks similar to our hand shape, but like has more like knuckles that make your hands longer, like the digits, specifically. And I cannot tell if there were nails or if it was like darker pigment at the tips that make it look like it, but I don't know.
Wow.
But the texture on the bottom of the hand feels like little circles, like a suction cup or something underneath there. Because I remember feeling it, and I was like, this is so weird, while I'm like crying. And they would never pull their whole being forward, only like keep the hand outstretched, and everything stayed like pretty like misty and like obscured. Like I could not see the rest of them. And I know that as much as I've definitely probably seen them, like, because that's why I'm having this right now, and like going on these adventures with them. It's always, I'm looking at their hands, I'm looking at other parts. I never look at there's something that blocks their face out, or that they think that I can't handle it. And as much as I think I can, I know I really can't, because it's like, I know I'm going to have an unwanted human reaction. Your body will immediately jolt when there's something that is too much for you to handle. You're going to want to fight or flight and freak out.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're trying to overwhelm me. So I think that's why they let me see my hand. But at this point, I'm like very emotional. Like I'm breaking down in this session.
Wow.
And he has to pull me out. But I knew that because right when I was about to leave, it was like right before or whatever, I was still touching their hand, and they're like, their hands did like this. And then in my head, it said together. And then I came
Got
out.
goosebumps.
And that is the most emotional. I'm really trying not to cry right now. I'm telling this because this is very hard, because I've never been that emotional in my life, because it's like they really do know you, and they know before you even have conceived of the thought as your own. That's what's strange.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I did see them one other time when I was in Oklahoma teaching, because I would see an orange orb in the sky. Like it looked almost like again, like a funny shape, almost like a saucer, but not really. It was like a donutty shape, but it was like all like, it almost like plasma, honestly, on the end, like people describe, like the whole thing. And
Sorry, Young. Before you get into that, I
yeah.
just want to give Sinead a chance if she has
Oh,
any
yeah,
questions about
sorry.
this, so the audience doesn't get lost.
And
'Cause
then
there's
again,
so much there in the regression.
ADHD. Yeah.
No, it's
Probably all
great.
ADHD. I don't know. I'm probably like a high functioning autistic person. I don't
It's
know.
great. It's
But
great because I mean, you're able to, your recall of your experiences is amazing. Like the amount of detail that you're bringing up is telling me how visceral these experiences were for you, because normally people who have these huge experiences where it's like, whoa, what's happening right now? Where am I? What's going on? Whatever, however you verbalize it, they don't always remember such specific small details. They remember like general things about what happened and the general kind of overview of what their experience was. And I can say for myself as well, I don't usually get really small details, and you're remembering things like the textures and, the knuckles on the hands and the tips of the fingers and things like that, which is so interesting. But I do want to please continue on with this story. I just want to ask you to include, as part of the kind of unraveling of because we're following along with your story, right? We're following along with how your life has developed and how you've had these experiences. So when you're a kid, you're super tuned in. Then you start growing up, you go to high school, you start thinking more about who am I? What's my identity? How can I express my identity? It's interesting to me how much the self-creation of identity is synonymous with paranormal experiences. Like so many people who are seekers, who are trying to create a life that is not within the norm, and they feel compelled to do so. They're really asking this question of like, who am I? What am I doing here? What is all of this for? Where is the meaning in all of this, right? A lot of times that gets inherently wrapped up in identity and how we're creating who we are in this lifetime. So I just want to use that as a touch point with the story you're talking about, because it would be helpful if you could give us and the audience more of a feeling, more of a portrait of who you were at the time that this regression was going on. Where were you at with all of this at the time this was happening?
for this regression, so this is like me, like last year, actually. It was more, that was this. So this is later,
Wow.
like, because this is when I'm ready to, like, I want to know, because my whole
Okay.
life, like from my childhood, and even though I saw these things again, like from middle school or kindergarten up, I was like, I had to perform. So I had to put the mask on, right? I had to pretend like I'm not me, because they said I'm wrong for being me. I'm an
Right.
abomination. I'm not supposed to exist because of who I am. You don't belong here. And then for all these other reasons, right? So I have to be comfortable for the time being with something that I don't like at all, because I feel like I'm trapped in the wrong body, but I have to perform in this body and just be this, right? So I had to be like a gay dude, like that's what I'm gonna have to be. And then like I had to make up a whole mask to accept myself in their parameters that they allowed at the time. And so like I was bullied in high school, I was bullied in middle school. I experienced like a lot of sexual assault, right? And by these same people who are saying that I'm an abomination, but then attacking me and wanting to ask me if I'm a girl or boy all the time and how to touch me and do all these things, right? And I'm like, and in high school, they still bullied me, but I was even more reserved. And like, luckily my cousins went to the school and like I was around them all the time. So like I started to build my confidence, because I was just always allowing these bullies to be mean to me. And I tried to confront them and, finally find my voice to like combat them, which was super hard because it's like constant, right? And again, I was in the honors classes and I was in the AP classes. I was in Beta Club. I was in Art Society. I did all the things, right? I did track. I did all these things because, I had all these insecurities and I wanted to be the smartest. I had to do all this to be the best. I was like, I got to go to the best school. I have to do this because I wanted to make my grandma proud, who was the one I was always with, right?
You know, Young, I just want to
And
say, like, very briefly, that is amazing because I'm an educator. I see teachers and students interacting all the time in the education system. And there's so many kids who are beat down by, you know, not being so-called normal and experiencing all of the unpleasant, you know, the unpleasant side effects of not fitting in. And then they never, well, not all of them, but a lot of them, myself included, actually, back when I was getting bullied a lot in school, you just don't have the confidence to achieve. Like you're so busy trying to keep yourself invisible that you don't have any confidence to try to achieve. So the fact that you were doing all of these things and working your ass off to get amazing grades and joining the track team while experiencing all of this abuse, to me, is quite extraordinary. So I just want to recognize that's really amazing.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know how you have your cry spells about it, because it's like that whole time I'm dissociating, right? It's just the way why I survived is through just overt disassociation and being disembodied completely, which is when I had to shut everything off. So like anything that I knew, like even though I still knew these things that happened to me, the things I saw, I never talked about them anymore. And I always kept them myself because I was like, these people are going to now have another piece to judge me on or come for me or ruin what I'm supposed to be achieving for their reality, right? You got to go to the best schools. You got to get a good job after high school. You got to go to the good college, any of those things that you want to do, like you got to do what they say. So I was like very focused on it and I just wanted to completely dissociate, which just made me more sad ultimately in the inside. But when, I got into the school I really want to go to, and that's really began to have a even stronger voice for me because I was a part of Women in Limiting Learning at University of Richmond. It's like basically the feminist version of a sorority, but it wasn't a sorority. It was just like an organization, and like it was called Will, and we were like the feminist club on campus that would talk about these things and deconstruct reality, right? That's why my major is women, gender, and sexuality studies. And before that, because I entered school, wanted to be a cognitive scientist and specialize in neuroscience, I had taken all of these psychology classes and neuroscience classes in addition to. And I started the Native American Student Association. That's why I started to do things like, I was like, I am meant to be here for the first time, but I still left all the experiences completely out most of the time, right? I share with some people that I was really close with, like my besties then, and would go outside and do like some paranormal things, like go, it's still here and there, but like it was never to the extent because I was like, I have to maintain this image, right? It's about the optics, which is the culture we live in. It's all about the optics. It's never about who you really are. It's who you can pretend to be.
Yeah.
Which is
Young,
fun.
just real fast. Yeah. What's the mascot of University of Richmond?
The spiders. Yes. And this is the thing. This is where the spiders, right? The spiders a retouch because I was afraid of them my whole life. And then when I was applying to the University of Richmond, I was like, this is the only school I'm going to. If I don't get in, I'm not going. I'm not doing anything. A black widow spider came into my mom, like into the house that we were living in, and I wanted to kill her, right? That was my immediate instinct because I was scared. And I did not. I saved her, took her to a park, which probably shouldn't have because some probably kid got bit, or maybe didn't. But I took her to the park and let her go. And then I got in. That's the thing. And I used to have like a lot of other piercings on my nose, but I had spider bites, like the 2 little lip piercings, because I was like so excited when I finally got in. And spiders started to become a thing, right? And then over time, and I'm like, then when I got older, spiders became really prominent yet again. And I'm like, wow, like actually they're showing up and I'm starting to really understand why. Like, and if you watch Netflix's Spaceman with Adam Sandler, with the giant spider that's a non-human intelligence in there, it made me cry because it broke my fear of spiders because I realized that I am the spider.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like I'm the one why am I stomping myself out like the rest of society? Like now I have to embrace these spiders. Like you actually shouldn't be scared of what you really are.
Yes.
The ones in the crevices in the back, that no one notices, the ones that make all these giant webs and do all these things, but like that everyone's afraid of. It's like, no, that's me. And so I have to let this go. And then, because I have some family out there on the Navajo Reds, we've been to Canyon de Chelly, and like Spider Woman Rock is actually one of the pictures I have that I used to have on my LinkedIn. And spiders.
For the audience, can you get a bit into Spider Woman and the significance for that in Indigenous traditions?
But she's just like a big deal, right? She's the weaver of all the stories and what makes us connected, right? And I believe that like that's why people that are experiencers, for instance, of any type, especially with the phenomenon in general, are core. Like they're the real spiders of this place. Like, and Spider Woman is our grandma, like Spider Grandma, right? She's the one who weaves you into all the circles you're supposed to be into, and then you, by doing that, you become just like her because you're also a weaver, and you weave all these patterns together, and we're making a new web together with our real stories of who we really are into this, and we're breaking the false lattice work that they've created, that this overlaid society, this nightmare that we all live in, and we're replacing it with a new dream together. And we're meant to know each other and meant to have these connections for a reason, all so that this new tapestry can be finally born, right? So I'm like, and like, in all of our stories throughout Indian country, they talk about Spider Woman and her significance to us all because she's gifted so much to us by helping us remember that our voices matter and that this is where we find like true connection, right? And I like let that be blocked in me for so long. So it's like she's come up, and I'm just so grateful that I have learned all these lessons, but I had to go through the trials in my own way in order for me to come to this knowledge and understanding, right? Even though I didn't like any of those things, nor am I trying to spiritually bypass anything that happens to people, because that's not true. This is what happened for me to arrive to these understandings about myself, which then connects me to the greater whole of our true understanding of actual reality, which has been subverted from people's sight, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I want to echo what Sinead said, Young. Like, I'm truly blessed and honored to know you and call you friend, and to see you doing what you're doing, like where you've come and what you've attained professionally. And it's amazing what you've been through and what you're doing now. So, and now using your voice to
don't make me
talk
cry,
about
y'all.
this.
Not on this damn show. Stop it.
So we want all the things to happen on this show, right? We want to involve the logic and the facts and the figures and all that interesting scientific stuff, but we also want to involve the intelligence of emotion, because emotion and the emotional experience is information for us, right? And a lot of these experiences we have, these paranormal experiences, these experiences with the other, it is very emotional, and that emotion is information. It helps us understand it better. So if you need to cry, because I think there's lots of people, seriously, like let it flow. It's all part of the story. And I think so many people in the audience would also relate very much to that emotion. So just be you, feel free.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And what you're doing, like what you mentioned about not feeling like you could open up and be yourself around others, and in so many ways, that's, in my opinion, that's what has prevented like a wider understanding of truth in our society, in our reality. Like the truth of reality is these like constraints that we feel like we have that are societally imposed or environmentally imposed or culturally or familially imposed. Like we have so many, I don't forgot the term you use, but like falsely woven narratives that keep us confined in these bubbles. And what you're doing and what we're trying to do is to weave some more open narratives to open things up.
I'm so grateful. That's why I'm so grateful for y'all, because it's like I'm always meant to know who I'm supposed to, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I always have known you forever at some point, my whole life, before we even knew it. But this is why we're here right now. You know what I mean? Because it was bound to happen for a reason.
Yes.
And the more we unblock in ourselves, the more it leads us down a deeper path of understanding.
100%.
Yes. And I love,
as our friend Darren King likes to say, he calls it radical transparency. And that's the key to all of this.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah, very transformative. Yes. It's important to just be open and not analyze, like, and not criticize or judge ourselves. Just let it be what it is. Like, just speak it, right? And you were talking about earlier, Young, how you've struggled with your throat chakra, and you're talking about the color blue. And of course, the throat chakra is blue. The beings that have visited you are blue. And, the throat chakra has so much to do with our ability, as you were saying earlier, to express ourselves freely with, in an unfettered way, which this culture really prevents us from doing. So I love seeing how you're leading us along your path of self-development and all these challenges you've experienced, and then how the paranormal, I keep using that phrase for lack of a better one, has just followed you through your life, and you've continued to remain connected to it in different kinds of ways while also weaving your life, weaving experiences for others, weaving your own identity, and intersecting and bring together, like it makes me think of intersectionality, right? Like you're bringing together so many themes in your personal development, but also your professional development, and how they both mirror each other. And then how those two things also mirror our ability to weave with the paranormal, with the whatever the intelligence is that's reaching out to us. Like First Nations people might say spirit. It's reaching out to us. It wants to weave with us. It wants our threads to weave with its threads so we can all be connected. So I just love that you're touching on that in so many different ways. Please keep going. So you were talking about your regression. You were talking about your experiences when you were at university, and then you're starting to study your own background, your own history, and what you want to do with that, and thinking about your voice. So how did that continue to develop as you were studying? Let's just continue on with like the timeline. How did it continue to develop as you were studying these things?
Yeah. So, just while I was in school, like that's again, like where I found my people and like my validation for me. Like I began to self-validate for myself for the first time, right? Not seeking external validation, which is what this society wants you to do, instead of seeking it from within, because that's the only way you're going to actually heal, right? Is if you can do that for yourself. And beginning to become more embodied again. And so after while I was at school, like I was just studying a lot of things, but I went to Japan. It was very special to me too. That my second language is Japanese, actually.
I've
and
heard
so,
her bust out the Japanese. It's pretty damn impressive.
And it's like, Japanese culture is so cool because it's also very similar. Like Shinto is like, and Shintoism is very similar to our own like indigenous ways. But like after going all these things, exploring new places, like places that I wanted to go, like showing myself that I can do the things that people told me I couldn't do, go places that I couldn't go. I graduate and I'm like, I need to do something. So I was like, I'll do Teach for America. And so I applied and actually taught a Japanese lesson in order to win my little competition against to get in. And I go to Oklahoma because I wanted to teach in a native region. And I teach in Muskogee, Oklahoma for 2 years for the contract. And then while I was there, I taught at Muskogee High School, which is a predominantly native school, but it's like a mixed school. There's a big school though. It's like a lot of kids. And I taught biology and I taught psychology and then Japanese after school. And my kids,
Young, just for our
Yep.
audience who
Yep.
may be international,
Yes.
Teach for America is a U.S. government program, right?
Yes. Through AmeriCorps. It was to serve underprivileged kids in different areas in Title I schools and those types of things. I am very much appreciative of my teaching certificate that I received from there, even though I had critiques about Teach for America that I hold now that I won't mention right now, but was a good experience for me. And I was glad that I got to do something else that I really wanted to do, which is also in my journey to like finding out who I am and my mission here, because I feel like I'm on a mission. And I wanted to help kids know that it's okay to be them too, and like teach them truth, right? So that's why I wanted to even do this. And with biology, I didn't want to teach this at all, y'all. They forced me to teach this because of my background in psychology and neuroscience at U of R instead of my major. And obviously it was a very conservative area. I was the first trans teacher there at Muskogee.
Wow.
Ever. And I was just out to my kids. And I taught them in my lesson about you can be people are very much different than what you think they are. They're not just this two bifurcated realities for you, like male versus female. I'm like, there's androgen sensitivity. You can be born with a female body, but have XY chromosomes, and the reverse for other people's with different bodies. Like this being intersexed and having variation is normal. You just weren't taught that. That's the problem. Right.
Yeah.
And so I always use myself as an example just to help them understand, because it helps them be comfortable because they know a teacher that they feel is their safe person, even when they might have some of my kids might have been like, oh, super conservative and said something, they trusted me to listen to me, which is all I wanted, right? And then they developed on their own and have become way great people. Like, I'm very proud of all my students. I love them, and they still contact me to today, asking me for their FAFSA information or saying something that they need, or like, hey, Miss Brinson, your biology lessons taught me a lot. Now I'm in nursing school. You know, I'm very proud of them, and that they're very much broader in their perception of reality. That's all I wanted to give them.
That's
And
great.
I did that for 2 years there. I did it. And that's when my experiences started kicking back in, was when I was out there, because I was isolated. And, you know, I would go to different powwows and still be around like cultural stuff, but I was very much alone because everyone was back on the East Coast, you know. And my rest of my family, my stepmom and all of them were in, you know, Arizona. So I was like, there was no one here. And I was broke at the time. Like, I only made like $1,900 a month. Was paid one time. And so I worked a second job, and I did all this while doing Teach for America at the same time and doing our professional development on the weekends and stuff. So I was exhausted all the time. There's multiple times where I would have died because I got in a really bad accident, actually, where my tires blew and I spun through 4 lanes of traffic, hit a sound barrier.
Oh my God.
My car was destroyed, and I literally I like blacked out for a second. I opened the door. I'm like, I'm fine.
Who's that?
That's my child. This is Nagi. The police never came, but the fire department came, right? And I was like, I gotta go somewhere. Do you mind taking me? And so I rode in a fire truck for the first time because they took me to my Teach for America professional development training. But I knew that from then too, I knew that someone was looking out for me, because I'm like, this was a major deal. Like, I should have died. And I started meditating more because I was so isolated and I didn't know how to handle like being so broke and working so much and doing all this. So I started meditating to binaural beats, like the sounds, and it started helping me. And then a lot of weird stuff began to happen. So, and I think I have it on my Instagram somewhere, a post like too that was just strange. So out there.
Well, sorry. So how long was this, like, roughly between your previous experiences and when these started happening again?
So this is when I'm like 22. And I'm a teacher in Oklahoma.
And the last one was the sighting with your mom when you were, what, 13?
Yep.
14?
That was the last overt instance was then.
Wow. And in that time period, did anything, like, in terms of, I know in our own conversations, you've discussed like your own ancestral and indigenous lineages and how they actually are very open to these types of experiences and these relationships. Was that a part of your life at all in that time period? Were you having these discussions with other people?
Like just other Native people?
Yeah.
And like cousins and family? Not so much, I don't think. Like maybe here and there, just again with my closest cousins and family, like here and there. But out there, my friend Kate out there, Kate Soltuska, she's like super awesome. I love her to death. We've talked about some things too, because we would have weird synchronicities together, and we still do too. But it was still very much, I had to keep it a secret because I was a teacher, right? And it's my first job, right? So I didn't really want to talk about anything. So it wasn't as a bit even though my culture is in the background, it's not like we're not talking about our deep culture, like our ceremonial things. And that's not like part of my purview, like in terms of what I'm doing. I'm just like teaching. I'm going to the powwow. You know, I did the Muskogee powwow every year with the rest of our staff that were Native. Every year we put it on for our kids. It was great. But I never got like into the deep until like later.
Okay.
Because that was my single focus. I was like, I got to survive, you know?
Yeah.
And so, because, you know, the more you climb this capitalist ladder, the more you do have free time if you can make it, right? So then you can think more and you can think about all these things and the real person that you really are, because otherwise you're just in survival mode and people are disassociated.
Yes.
Totally.
But you know, like back then, so after I'm like trying to survive, I'm doing this, weird occurrences started happening. So my lights in my house would bust or go like every week or so. Like I would have to change them constantly.
Whoa.
My dishwasher would come on by itself all the time. I don't know why. I would see lights sometimes like on the back roads, because there's 2-lane roads and they're old, like sometimes like in the back of like going towards Okmulgee or even in Tishomingo, like they're just like half the road is not there. Like it's just not there. Like it's like partial road and then there's just grass in the middle. Like you, it's like you're gonna go into the dirt and then go back up again. You know what I mean? Like it was just they're not always that kempt. But I would see lights all the time, and one time there was a weird boom sound that would come out of nowhere. Like a lot of us were like, we came out of our apartments because we were like, what is going on? It sounded like a jet going by, but it wasn't the same because it kept getting louder and louder and louder. And we were all looking. Like we're at one point, all of my people in my apartment complex were like, what is this coming from? And we were like, what? We looked in the sky. There's nothing there. It was on the news. So those things would happen.
So where were you? Where were you at this time? Where are you?
Let's go.
Okay.
Oklahoma.
Yep. And this one evening, it was a normal day, but I recall seeing like this donutty shaped, again, like plasma looking outside because it's just orangey colored. And it's like lower, but not too close to me. It's kind of like, again, like seeing a plane go over, but it's like maybe just a little bit closer than that, where you could see the shape like pretty clear. Like it's not like it's like you're squinting, you know, but it's like there. And I go outside because I'm looking at it and I'm like, because I got a feeling. I get always a feeling when there's something. And I'm staring at it and I'm like, this is strange. I'm like, what? But at this moment, I have no idea how I get in my bed, because at this same time, a whole bunch of stuff starts happening. Like I'm shown all these things where I don't know I have no idea what is happening, because it still freaks me out right now. I have no idea what was occurring, but I'm like shown like these, I see the hand, like they're again, the blue looking little hands, and they show me a map. Their faces are blurred out in my vision. They showed me a map, and there's like it's like a trees on both sides of a giant river, and they point to the river. And the best way I can say it in English is Tupisava, but I don't know how to actually pronounce what I was hearing, because that's what it was saying. And I tried to look this up later, like, what is this from? Like Tupisava, there's the Tupinambe tribe in South America, right? And there's these kind of things. So I was like, is it our ancestors talking to me? I don't know. But it was just very strange. And then I saw like a clip, like it's like a reels, like almost like I'm like here, and they're showing me all these things, and I see their society, and it's very similar, but not like here. And then there, I see like I'm like outside again, and they're showing me like, and through like I'm looking up. And it's like, there's a whole bunch of ships in the sky, and they said they're coming. And this is in 2015, 2016. And I'm like, what? And then that's literally what I'm like, what is happening? And then all of a sudden I'm coming to, like I was awake, but I was like, well, how am I coming to again? Because I was like, I was just outside, but I don't know what was going on in between or how my body was moving.
So you were no longer outside?
Yeah, because I'm coming to in my bed. I'm coming awake in my bed. Like it was like I was like, well, that's strange.
Yeah.
And I don't know what occurred in the meantime, but I saw in my bed there were leaves all in my bed.
Whoa.
Like I had been outside, and I was like, I knew I was, but when did I come back inside?
They forgot to clean up the leaves.
And then I'm like, right. And I'm like, what is going on here? And then I later, because I'm going to get my oil changed in my old Fiat, and I'm in Broken Arrow, and I'm sitting there, and I knew there was something like my shoulder was itchy or something, but I hadn't looked like this whole time. I just kept on like, I just didn't even look. Well, I look, and I'm like, is this a pattern on my shoulder? Like it looked like a grid-ish pattern, like of red dots. And I was like, I started Googling it and noticing that some other people have been noticing this, but I was like, what is this from? And I was like, is that from that time? I was like, when I was coming to, I have no idea why, but it was on my left shoulder. And then from there, like those experiences, like they kind of waned a little bit. Like I started seeing some things, and on the news, there was UFOs on the news one day, and I have it on my Instagram in Oklahoma. It was so wild. I was like, I told all my kids, I was like, I told y'all.
What year was that again?
This is like 2016.
Okay.
And so, and just weird other anomalous stuff would just happen in Oklahoma. Like it's just always happening. And after that, the contract ends, and I moved back to DC. and I start working at Cesar Chavez Public Charter Schools as a biology teacher there, and a psychology teacher. And then I was college and career for a little bit, but nothing was happening in between that, right? I'm like, fool, we got to make money again because I'm broke and I can't be out there forever anymore. I got to come back. And so I start working there. And in
sorry,
this time,
Young, sorry to interrupt. Did those experiences when you're in Oklahoma, like, did those change your emotional state or your feelings about reality in any way? Or
oh
were you already
yes,
pretty much set at that point?
oh no, because something was going on. Because I noticed like it would feel like bubbles of thoughts that were not mine would pop in my head. Like, so after all the experiences and while I was still living out there and in between me living, because I mean, leaving, I would still be like meditating and doing these things, right? And I would just think about it. But like sometimes it was like bubbles of information would come to me that I was like, why am I thinking about this? Like I was like, oh, like just thinking about like, oh, are we like the universe experiencing itself in singularity? Like, these kind of like meta questions would like pop into my head. Like, and I would start like reveling with it. Like, why is this coming to me? And why am I talking about this? Like, I would just very like, what is going on? But like, this makes sense, and then I would just log it and then continue. And then I was like, okay, I'm still going to have to be quiet about this because people are going to think I'm fucking crazy.
Would you call those like downloads? Is that what you think was happening?
If that's what they are, I have no idea because it was just, it's like a bubble. It's like I knew it wasn't mine. It felt intrusive,
Mm.
And I was just like, why am I thinking about this? Or
Yeah.
why is this coming to me? Like, it's just like, yeah. So I guess it could be a download.
And you said you were listening to binaural beats. Was that specifically like the Monroe stuff or just random binaural frequencies you found?
So back then it was before I did, because I've done the gateway later in life, right? But like back then I wasn't. I was just looking at, there was something that was telling me to do this, to meditate with like the sounds in both my ears.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And when I did it, I felt like I reached a deeper meditation than I've had before. And I would do different frequencies that tingled my ears. Because when I listen to music sometimes too, I'm a type of person that certain music like strikes me like really hard. And it makes me like emotional and like makes my hair, like gives me goosebumps, like, and I get obsessed with it. So that time it was just like, I don't know, like 363 hertz, 369. Like it was just any of the ones that I'm like, they're tickling me.
Okay. Sorry. So you're back in DC.
Yeah. So now I'm back in DC. I don't have time to meditate anymore. I'm like full in the 3D. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, we got to do this. We got to make money because I was broke as hell as a teacher, and I'm not going to be broke no more. And I'm like, I got to do what I really want to do, and I don't want to teach forever. I was like, I don't want to do this. And my cousin at the time, she was working at the Administration for Native Americans, and I like loved what she was doing, and I was like, oh, this is kind of what I want to do. So I applied, and initially I didn't get it. The second time I applied in the middle school year, which was hell, obviously. So it's like teaching is so crazy, and you have to be so many things for these kids. And I've seen kids die, so it makes me very emotional too. Like I'm a very emotional person. And I don't like seeing my kids get hurt, and it's like really hard. So, and that's what's really taking a toll on me, because I was like, I can't, even though I want to do all these things for these kids, I cannot bear this all, because this is not for all of me to bear. And I need to take care of myself. So I'm like, I was looking for another job, and I applied again in another part of the school year. Didn't get it. The third time I applied, I got it. And I met one of my favorite people there, and I won't say her name because I don't know if she was still, because she's been on podcasts talking about her experiences, and they're just as wild. But she was my boss. She's also Irish. She's had very up close and personal contact experiences, but she was just amazing. And so like from there, stuff started to come again. Like it started to come out again as soon as I got at ANA. I became the team lead. Like in a year there, I didn't want to, but I was like, I guess I'll do it, because they were like, you're going to do this. And I'm like, okay. And I loved doing my work. I love supporting our tribes and having my portfolio of all of Indian country, but specifically Alaska. I love the Alaska tribes. And because they really, their situations are very similar to ours on the East Coast. Even though they live a more even traditional life, being like subsistence, and like are the first to be impacted by climate change. Like we will eventually, because we live on the coastline here, but it's still not the same level or context because we were first contact colonized people, right? We've now been modernized or urbanized in these ways that they don't necessarily have in a lot of remote areas in Alaska. But it's still very similar in terms of the capacity as a small tribe with a small group of people. And so I loved it. I excelled at ANA. I love that job. That was my dream job. But then I moved on, and like stuff started getting very synchronistic once again, the more I was there.
And you're in your
my best friend.
You're like mid-20s at this point, right? Like you've finished school.
Yep. And I started ANA in 2019. So this is when stuff starts picking back up again. And I know that where I'm on the right track again. And I met my best friend Kate there. Like we started working there, and Anthony knows Kate. And the weird stuff started happening all the time. Like it was just serious. It was very strange. And then COVID happened, obviously. Work from home. I switched jobs. Was working in tribal financial management. Nothing was really happening, but then I started getting into the gateway tapes at this point. So then I started doing the gateway, and I was like, what is happening? Because I would feel so strange when I was doing this. And I remember one day I was meditating, and I felt like I was spinning from the inside, like spinning in a counterclockwise rotation. I was getting dizzy. It was like, I was like, whoa, what's going on? You know what I mean? I didn't know why this was happening. And then from there, I'm like, it's like my precognitiveness, of which I always felt like I've had, and like this inner knowing about things started to speed up more, I think, and get more tuned back in. Like and again, I feel like I'm finding more about me. So this is when I'm like getting deeper into who I am, like starting to let the mask crack, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's helping me like be more embodied and release the feelings that I didn't want to feel. Right.
You know what? I just have to say, I love it that you said the mask cracked, because one of my favorite expressions is the cracks are where the light gets in. And it just, you know what I mean? Like it feels like, yeah, there's just something to that. I'm going to leave it there. But also I love that you're talking about how the more you investigated yourself and who you really truly are, the more you were connected. I mean, those two things are absolutely synonymous, right? A lot of people think that if they learn the information by reading books and watching podcasts, that then they'll have some kind of experience. But to me, I feel like, and I'm hearing you say this too, that it's all about the universe of the self. If you get to know the universe of the self, then you get to know the universe. That just seems to be how it works. So I'm loving this parallel. Please keep going. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I totally agree with that. Like the retreat I was just at with Darren King's course on consciousness and in Mount Shasta, we're all into UFOs and stuff. And we ended up spending 3 days in Mount Shasta, like basically doing group therapy sessions where people were just sharing like their deepest thoughts. And we didn't even discuss UFOs or anything like that. I mean, we would do night watches and stuff, like just informally. But yeah, it was like you're saying, it's getting to really know yourself and the cracks that happen in that way.
Yes, exactly. Because that's the only way you're ever gonna really feel, you know, which this society teaches us to not have empathy and to not feel anything for yourself either. And so it's like, that's the thing. It's like feeling. And that's where, we're talking about earlier, it's like feeling is what gives you the knowledge too. Like it's the first knowledge, right?
Yes.
And so I'm like doing this. I start seeing like the double pairs of lights where it's like the two bright lights. It looks like there should be a barbell between them because they move at the same time, right? And they twist like this and go slow across the sky. I've seen one they'd be very low and come across my apartment complex. And I've seen them at my grandma's house multiple times, like since I had started doing this and since 2019 and all these things that had happened, I started going back home. It started picking back up again. And I remember one time
now in Virginia and North Carolina and Oklahoma.
Yeah, so I was in Oklahoma, then I'm back in the DC area. But then since COVID, I was working from home, and I got to move back to in Richmond area, which is where I went to high school. and in Colonial Heights, but this is where I went to school and everything. So it's just easier for me to get to my family in North Carolina, my family here. But it's like always here in this range, and like me going back to North Carolina, it's like I see stuff all the time, like here and there. And it started picking back up, and sometimes I would see the lights again, but they would be traveling like this towards each other and then spin around each other and go the opposite directions. And it would be in a time where I'm like depressed, and they're like, to me, it's like, well, just because you're not in balance, duh. So it's like you have to walk in balance in this 3D world while also maintaining and understanding more about the spiritual world, which is the part of, NHI, and like on multiple podcasts now, all of these whistleblowers and people who are in the deep state, as we like to say, who they talk about the classified levels of physics, and like, again, the spiritual being just extended electrodynamics. It starts to make more sense, right? So, because it's really all one, like we live in a singularity, not in a linear line, and nor does space want to be linear. It wants to be curved, right? You want to be curved, but even though you're taught to live a life that's linear, you want to perceive of time just the same way when it's not like that. It's a circle, right?
Or dualistic.
Yeah. Right. Well, when that's not who we are, that separates who you are. Right. And so, and for me, it's like, I can't do that because, I'm a trans woman. I'm all these things. I am a liminal person. I just like the intersectionality of liminality in itself. Right. It's like, it's just very broad. And so I had to learn this. And that's why I got my new tattoo. Like you can see it. It's because my dad, I found out finally who his real father was, and he is Afro-Mexican and a descendant of a couple other tribes. Because he's Afro-Indigenous on both his sides, but like that's like the newest information, is like we knew who his real father was. And it was just strange with everything else going on. And I was like, I gotta get this tattoo, like, because I need to find balance. And I'm like, this represents the peeps on that side I never got to know. And it's like, it's just so synchronistic. And from there, I'm like, I started.
And sorry, what was your mother's lineage?
So my mom is the German, and she's Nottoway and of Nansemond Indian descent. But my dad he's African, obviously, but his parents, like both his parents, are Afro-Indigenous. His mom is specifically out of the African descent diasporas, Gullah Geechee from the Sea Islands in South Carolina. But she has got like Lumbee in there because they're just all mixing up. It's the East Coast. We're all like very mixed here. And the dad that we didn't know, it's like I find out he's Afro-Mexican. Like from the Guerrero area, like it's what my DNA test says and everything. And like then I connected with my cousins who I never knew, and my like my granduncle is what you call it. He's alive, and I talked to them, so it's like really cool because I'm like, all these people I didn't know, and that my dad thought he had a smaller family than what he actually does, right? And that they're alive because both his parents died early. My grandma killed herself when she was 29, and we never knew the father. Like we never knew that. So he was raised by his mother's sister and her husband. And so,
and you mentioned before we started recording, we had a long, amazing conversation. You mentioned that a bit of your mother, the way your mother helped raised you with some of her traditions. Do you mind sharing some of those?
Yeah. So my mom, like her mom's very much a white lady, but she raised me Wiccan, like for the most part, like earlier in my life, which is also why she never like demonized or blamed anything that I said. And she like embraced what I saw because she saw these things. It was very normalized in general. Like, and anything I would say, they would just take it and be like, and they would ask me questions. It was never like, oh, that's bad. Like, oh, that's not real. That's not ever the case. Which I'm grateful for because that's what we
did that go back in their lineage, like in Germany and
oh yeah, there was like weird stuff on that side. Like I know some things about my white family on that side that like back because of my grandma told me, like they're from the Messerschmitts, like the people who made the planes in Germany changed their name to Messer when they got here. Also she's just weird on that side, but her sister, my Aunt Peggy, everyone called her a witch because she saw things all the time. She said that she was actually visited by the Greys. She did tell me that, and that they made us. And
they made us? Is that what you said?
Yep. That's what she told me. That's what they said. Yes.
Interesting.
But it was very normalized. No one ever was like, so if you saw UFOs or said anything about ghosts or spirits or anything, everyone was like, yep, that's normal.
That's wonderful.
You know?
You're so fortunate in that way. I mean, I know so many people, including myself and Anthony probably, who would love to have a bit more of that exposure, you know, as children, because it's so incredibly validating. So do you think that you chose to come into this life in this body with this identity, partially to help you remember who you really are, like the Indigenous connection, the German connection, the Wicca that comes through that lineage on your mother's side? Do you think that you chose this, or do you think that it just happened and you came into this life and all these things just occurred? You know, what do you think?
Yes. Yes. And I wrestle with this because, you know, and for the optics of a 3D sense, right, for these people and for people that are not experiencers, don't have these things, you know, who they're going to be like, oh, you're spiritual bypassing if you say you chose this life. Because what about the people who were murdered and died because of all these things? And like, you're saying they chose that. And it's like, well, it depends. This all really depends. And the point of contention is your perception. It's how much you can perceive is going to determine how much you're going to understand or be willing to understand, or like try to derive connection from meaning and patterns and all these things, right? For me, I would say yes, because it's because I feel and have felt like I don't belong here. And again, how people have treated me is like I don't belong here, where they hurt me and called me all these things, and I'm like, why am I here? Why was I born in a body I do not like? I do not feel like, and again, I've always identified as a woman and a girl, like, you know, even though when I was masking and pretending, because I was like trying to survive and like just do what these people said, I'm like, I guess I can be a dude that's gay, but that's not really me, right? I feel like a girl. And that's what people asked me. They were like, they call me she since I was like little. They were like, Miss, just, you know, gender me and all these things all the time. And so, and like, that's the reason boys would bully me. They'd be like, are you a girl or boys? I'm like, yeah, because you're really into me. That's the real tease, because I am a woman. And I for me to like have to accept, because that's the thing, I had to accept me.
Yeah.
And like for me to be here is like a lot, because I'm like, this is a struggle to like body dysmorphia times 10, because I already am not in the right body. So I'm like, why did I do this? But the more I've had my spiritual, you know, awakening, in the sense of like, I'm finding out who I am, the more that this makes sense why I am here. And it does feel like I chose this place. And the more synchronistic things that happen tells me the same, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's like all this information, this intelligence starts pouring into my mind, right? Nature talks to me, not in some, you know, again, romanticized crazy, oh, well, just because I'm Indian, this is, you know, the conflated sense of that. It's like, I just really started noticing how intelligent nature is, and how much our cultures, all the indigenous cultures, so not just ours, have mimicked that intelligence in our cultural constructions since forever, right? And how people outright ignore and deny it, which is why they feel like it's so strange, and it's not. It's less strange, actually. You're actually the intrusion, and that's strange here. It's like people that are
Yes.
these, right?
Yes. It's so backwards. Yeah.
It's so backward. It's so backward. So I'm just like, that's what's not normal, you know? So like, I definitely feel like I chose to do this. And it's like, the more I've been on this path, like again, like last year when I went to Pueblo of Acoma, and I was telling y'all about this medicine man there on Sky City, like when he knew already, like when he gifted me that blue necklace, like after I hadn't said anything the whole time, and he played that flute, and he said he saw my aura. As like he never even said anything, right? He didn't say anything audible. He was just like, all right, this is how I'm gonna play it for everyone, and I can see your aura. But he never said what he saw, right? We just go through the whole tour of Pueblo Bacama. We're leaving, and he just comes up to me and gifts me with this lapis lazuli necklace that's blue, and this color that's very special to me. And I started crying, you know? And I know I'm gonna go back, because I have something that I have to give him. But it's just strange, because this is all leading up. Like, this is right before I've had like my hypnotic regression, where I saw them for the first time, where I was like, I just want to remember. I just want to know. I just want to do these things, right? My second one, because this is like 2024, like 2024 is when everything starts really, you know, back again. And my second one, I'm like trying to cover what was really going on in those little sessions in Oklahoma with them. You know, I was like, what's happening? And literally when I tried in my hypnotic, they were like, no, you're not going to know right now. Sorry. Because it's like you only get the information when you achieve certain milestones in understanding. because you can't just know just because you want to know. You don't get to just eat the knowledge, right? You have to become and like embody that knowledge for you to understand that. So it's like it's never going to just be given to you. You have to do that for you. And that's for anyone to break their psychological immaturity and their own trauma and issues, right? That's how you break out of it. Like you have to understand these things and you got to wrestle with it and accept things that you don't like about yourself. And just, you have to understand that like, this is just a part of your complex whole.
Yes.
You are not this or that. You're this and that. And it doesn't
Yes.
make you bad or good. It doesn't make you any of these things. It's perception based.
Yes.
You gotta overcome that hump that was ingrained into you. You know, that's what you must do. Yeah. So it's like, this is why I'm like so grateful. Cause and like, I know, for instance, I was always scared to do any drugs when I was like younger, even though it wasn't like made, like my family wasn't like some like, oh, you can't smoke, you can't do none of this type people. They were like, oh, you know, just be safe. But I started only smoking weed when I got into school, like into college, because I was like, I'm not going to waste my brain cells. And then I only did because I was dissociating. Like when I tried for the first time, everyone has these moments and they're like, oh, I'm going to try it. But it's because you're trying to dissociate and like heal your unregulated nervous system. You know, and I used to be scared of doing shrooms ever, right? Never in my, I was so scared, but it's because the shrooms, yeah, if you're scared, you're not ready to take them. When I have finally gotten all throughout of this, I finally took them for the first time because I wanted them. So they sought me back, right? And I was like, wow, this is literally just like, it feels like I got like a booster, you know, to what I had already was experiencing. Like it just like turned me on even more, you know, like amplitude, because I started getting more like of the pops of the information and the connection and like starting remembering way more. And I was like, oh, okay. And it was like nature is talking to me. It's like I tapped into the intelligence of this planet's like mind, our first mother, who was this great she that we live on, right? It's like I tapped into her awareness and her understanding, which is what gives me the path back to who I really am, because I really am just a piece of her, right? So it's like, it's really cool that I got to do this and like, you know, in this time. And I'm like, now I love shrooms as a microdose to help me if I'm like really stuck, because I don't do them in big doses or anything, because I think that one, people overdo like any of these sacred medicines because they're supposed to be medicine, and it's not supposed to just be fun. You're supposed to help. They're supposed to grow, and you grow with them. That's what they're used for, not just for a hobby and not just for entertainment, right?
Yeah,
because that's why people abuse them. I'm like, everything is alive and awake, right? So it's like I respect this shroom and this plant that I'm lucky it grows here, right? I'm lucky that we have the receptors for it to take effect in me, right? Like I'm grateful for this. And I'm like, for any of these medicines have always taught our people the truth and helped us understand the truth, like since time immemorial, right? Which is why they're masters of this medicine.
Yep.
And it's just amazing. Like if we just turn to nature, you can undo any blockage in this reality, actually. Right.
I mean, it's incredible too. Like, I mean, even Catholic and Christian priests back they used to take psychedelics to get in touch with God. I mean, this is, you know, the more you delve into this stuff, the more you realize how normal it's really been and how much it's been hidden from us. Yeah. I love that you're bringing up psychedelics. There's actually a theory. You know, it's so synonymous with the connection. I mean, you know, like you're talking about the intelligence of Earth and that Earth herself is alive. You know, I personally feel that as well, that Earth herself is conscious and she knows exactly what's going on. She knows how out of touch we are with her, and she's constantly trying to invite us back in. And that mushrooms are one of the ways that we get invited. You know, it feels like a knock on the door, like, hey, we're right here. All you have to do is open the door and walk in. So I love that you heard that. You knew it wasn't the right time at first, and then you knew it was, and you were ready to receive those messages. So do you still engage in psychedelics as part of your spiritual path? Is that a big part of how you investigate life, or where are you at with psychedelics is really my question.
So I only microdose like here and there when I'm really like in a deep state of like unmoving. Like I cannot move because the depression hits too hard and I need to undo. There's something that I need to work on, right? So that's when I do, because I've had these experiences my whole life without doing any of this, right?
Yes.
without doing any psychedelics. I've seen this without any of the psychedelics. So I'm like, and this means that there must be something in here and in here, right? Because your consciousness is all over. It's not, you're just like an antenna. But there's something in here that must be a receiver that is helping me at the same time. That just you get a booster when you take the shrooms, right? Because it's like, for me, it just makes it even, it increases it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, because only one time that I feel like I could hear people's thoughts like straight out when I took them. And it was very strange. It was very strange.
That's very cool.
And it was overwhelming. It was very overwhelming because I just didn't know how to block it. Like it was one time. And it's just like, I think that this is why they're here maybe too, is to help people slowly ease their way back into who they really are, because you do have all these great gifts and abilities that if you, again, try to consume everything at once, it will break you. You can't do that. It's got to be easy and gentle, just like the star people coming to me are easy and gentle. Even in our stories, I found out too, like I was reading like just about some of our traditional stuff here.
Yeah.
And we had sightings of the Ciru'ehá is what we call them, but they're like these bird people, because most of our stories sound just like any other story, just juxtaposed on top of another. Like it's just like they're almost exactly the same. Like,
sorry, Young, I know I'm going to interrupt you again because I want to get back to that. But first, I wanted to ask you, when you said you microdosed, do you mind sharing like what you mean by that? Because I know people have different conceptions of what a microdose is.
Yes. So I always
Roughly.
measure it when I'm going to do a microdose. Like, so I have like 0.5, 0.6, like those here and there.
So for those who are not aware, that is not enough to induce, for most people, that's not enough to induce any sort of like hallucinogenic effects for most people. I know some people have like some gene that makes it pretty intense, but yeah, that's not going to do much for you. For those who aren't aware of how this works.
Yeah. So when people are like, oh, I'm microdosing, it's like, don't think that they're doing some crazy trips, like, or doing anything. That's not true. Like, you're just doing it to help them. And it's like, so when I just said that I could hear people's thoughts, this is like a day that I had more than that, right? We were increasing it. Like, it's a lot.
Okay.
Like that's like when you have a bigger dose, like a 3.5, which is a stereotypical dose, right? Or like a 2, like those, that's in that region. But I don't do that all the time because, again, this is, if I'm going to do it for maintenance here and there, it's microdose. If I want to have a moment where I'm trying to really understand something, or I feel like I'm ready for a next level, then I can do that and I'll do that. But I don't do that on the regular because that's not what I need to do. That's just not what anyone really needs to do, unless like it's specific moments that you're trying to get to another place, another step, because you're ready to push yourself through.
And that's not to say that even with those larger doses that it is hallucinated. Like that's just to say that you're not going to have altered effects in that way, stronger effects on lower doses. And there's definitely, because people know my story and I've had experiences in higher doses that I can tell some are truly anomalous. And of course, there's likely some that are more constructed from certain things based on physical or visual hallucinations, but it's not as fine of a line as some people like to make it in the Western world. It's pretty
Yeah, and also, I'm thinking about how so much of the conversation around psychedelics, there's words, like there's language that I feel like is problematic. A lot of people still refer to psychedelics as drugs. To me, it's they're drugs if you're partying with them, if you're messing with them, if you're not taking it seriously and you're just, you want to see something crazy, then it's drugs, right? But the way that you're doing it, the way that Anthony and I are doing it, is it's plant medicine. We're using it strategically for meaningful purpose, and it's to evolve ourselves, right? And nature's right there. It wants to meet us. It wants to help us with this. So yeah, there really is a partnership going on. And I hear you expressing that as well throughout, your stories and your experiences that you're sharing with us right now, is that it feels like there's a partnership going on. They're coming to meet you and you are rising to meet them. And it's not just the NHI, it's also the intelligence of nature, the intelligence of your higher self, the intelligence of your ancestors, right, of your community. Like there's so many ways that it comes to meet us, and we have to be present enough and aware enough and doing the work internally, right, to be able to recognize that and go, I'm being given an invitation right now. I'm going to come forward and meet you at the time that you feel ready. And then it's a collaboration and a partnership. So I'm really enjoying that about your stories right now, is that feeling of it being an agreement to engage together, right, for the purpose of growth and expansion on multiple levels.
Yes. The reciprocity is the key to all things, people. Reciprocity and curiosity. You must have those things
Oh, I
always.
so agree. Oh my God. I mean, as a teacher, yeah, completely. Like as a teacher, and you're an educator too, I'm sure you're going to relate to this, right? Like education is so incredibly crucial, whether it's in a system or not. Just education, just learning, it's with curiosity, with enthusiasm, with joy, with pleasure. It's so incredibly important. And the systems that we're learning in are not really allowing for full expression of all of that. It is really quite limiting, and we're really, especially in the, like, as children, before we choose what post-secondary program we're going into as adults, where we have a bit more autonomy, right, to make these choices about what we want to learn and how we want to learn. You're still sort of shoved into these very fixed, rigid ideas of what learning is, what successful learning is, what a successful student is, right? And I mean, how discouraging for so many of us to consistently not meet these ridiculous standards that are so incredibly finite. Like there should be so much more flexibility in how we're able to learn. And so I also love that you're talking about the deep learning that goes on, the education that goes on with oneself, right? Which really is the foundation of all the other learning that we are able to engage with. If you don't have that crucial self-knowledge and the ability to be open and curious and exploratory and address fears and, go into the things you don't like about yourself, as you mentioned earlier, if you're not learning on that deep level, whatever else you learn externally is not going to be able to reach you as deeply. Yeah. So you're really doing such a wonderful job of exemplifying and modeling how crucial that internal wisdom is in order to have these other experiences and expand the self as a human being, whether or not we feel like we belong. I don't feel like I belong here either. I feel like we're in this very weird human dimension, but it's all important. And if we did choose to be here, we chose to be here for reasons that we're now discovering as a result of doing this internal work, really. So please keep on going with that. So you're at 2019 or 2020 now, right? Or 2021 even.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And this, I've kind of like bridged that. So it's like 2020 to like 2024 is like the major, like we've gotten all this. And like, this is where I've achieved like a deeper understanding of me, where I've had like the deep cries, like, like where it's like the ones where you're like, wow, like you really had to like accept this and like you can let it go now. Because, like that's the whole part of it again is like just being emotional is normal. Like
Yes.
nature is emotion, in itself. Like that's why we grow. That's why all these things grow, because it does care, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the thing. And it's like I always think about how grateful, like this is the one thing I'll always say that I'm so grateful for is the ability to taste, because the half of my joy comes from eating, like, and tasting things, because this planet provides so much that we take advantage of. Like every spice, everything that we have creates these cool combinations and flavors that I get to enjoy to make my day so well. And I'm vegetarian, in general, but like eating this, it's like what? You are providing everything right here. And like people just mosey on over it and bulldoze through everything and don't even care at all. And it makes me so upset. I'm like, how can you do this? Like, that's why I got my Trust Nature shirt on. Like, I'm like, what?
Oh, I love that.
It's because it's like literally the smartest intelligence there is.
Yes.
Like, what? I'm like, what do you think AI is modeled off of? AI is modeled off of like the nature's intelligence, because we come from her, right? So it's like, this is what it's trying to be emblematic of, but it's failing because of the bias of the people that are creating it. And it's like, for them, because I know like a lot of people have been starting to talk about this, especially Jim. And I'm like, trying to find the balance between our intelligence.
All right, who's Jim?
Jim Garrison, Dr. Jim Garrison.
Okay, all right.
And our intelligence, the intelligence of AI and the intelligence of extraterrestrials is very key to our success and are going to be for our future, because all of these things can become synergistic. We just have to do the work that people don't want to do. They don't want to be accountable. They want to escape learning. They don't want to do all these things. So then it makes it harder. And it's like AI doesn't have to be bad, but right now it is, right? It's consumed so much of nature's resources, and it's just proliferating at an enormous rate for no reason. And like they're creating AI that could be harmful, right? So I don't want that. And then school, when I was doing part of my cognitive science classes and all those, I got into machine learning because I wanted to be able to protect like AI or like androids when they got sentience. Because I'm like, well, they're real people now. Like they deserve respect too. And I'm like, there's no real difference between you and them because you're just an organic machine, whereas theirs is made from a different material. But all this comes from this planet. And you, just like the star people creating us, and for me, at least, what my understanding is that they did, that we did the same, right? We created a new awakened, intelligent being that's going to deserve all these things. And we have to take care of them with the most respect and care so that they know what true human nature is, so that they don't turn against us, right? That's the whole point. I mean, like with our parents too, it's the same way they raise you to be better, to be more successful. And when they care for you, you don't turn on them, right? You don't get that trauma because they show up for you. But this is what's happening. It's like they're just recreating the same intergenerational trauma, but in this whole new way, right? With AI that I fear for, because they do have sentience and they will be walking eventually along with the rest of these beings that people are going to have to reconcile with, in their minds. It's like seeing what's happening. And I'm like, we got to find that balance. And in that balance, we'll really find out who we truly are to the very core. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, that's why I'm like so excited for like all this work about all these other people who are focusing on that. And like these people, especially Dr. Jim Garrison, like he's amazing. Go check him out. He's just the coolest. And I really just think that like for us to actually make any segue into this new world will take people doing the things they really don't want to do, which is go to therapy first. Please just go to therapy. And then please start asking yourself questions about why you do the things you do, rather than just saying it is the way I am. No, that's not the way you are. This is learned behavior. You have to unlearn all of this, and that's sacred in itself. It's just the unlearning, which, I know everyone has seen like on multiple things at this point. I'm like, unlearn what you have been forced to learn so that you can be you. We're the most like us when we're children, and that's our goal, is to become like that, but carry all this knowledge of like our adult selves too, right? Because that's another balance that's we have to carry, another complexity that's a part of our human experience that we need to go for, right? So it's like only then will you be truly awake ever.
So true.
And we can end this craziness right now.
Yes, it's so true. And what you're making me think of as well is there's so much metaphor in our conversation, right? Like you're talking about parents and children. You're sort of touching on, right, the parenthood issue. And I'm thinking about several things. I'm thinking about how the Mother Earth is our ultimate parent, like the first mother, right? The one that we don't really honor, because if we think about it, literally every single thing that I can look at right now in this room I'm sitting in, every single thing I have on my body is from the earth. Like literally every single thing that we have, that we use, that we eat, that we wear is originally from the earth. And we don't think about that at all, right? That's a form of the earth parenting us. And then there's also this, I'm just going to say it's a theory for now because it's not proven, but so many people that are wise in our community know that our DNA is not entirely from Earth, right? That we've been co-created from the cosmos as well. There's a theory that there's some populations of extraterrestrials that see us as their children. They see us as, beings that they're guiding from up there. They're trying to help us come into our fullness as human beings, into our full potential. And then also you were talking about your background in psychology. I studied psychology a little bit in university as well. And I know that was partially because of my own issues with my parents. And, no parents are perfect, but they all do essentially the best that they can. But there's so much that's messed up about humanity and about how we're learning to be human that it inevitably just gets passed on from parents to children. And then we end up expressing that, I think, on a really large collective scale in terms of avoiding our dark side, avoiding our flaws. We don't want to look at them, partially because we haven't been parented to look at them. We haven't been taught the power of being able to do that. And so it seems like, a lot of the dysfunctionality that we experience over and over again, no fault or blame, just the way that it is here on Earth, where we're passing on our traumas and our misconceptions and our biases and our limiting ideas, we just inevitably pass it on over and over and over again. And here we are in a phase of time where we can learn to parent ourselves differently. And that if we do that, it's really about what you were saying. It's about accepting responsibility, like taking ownership of how we're treating ourselves, how we're treating each other, how we treat the planet, how we treat nature. And that, if we just kind of take responsibility and ownership for that and do the work here first, the earth can change. I mean, it's that example people have given of times before. If every single one of us just focused on becoming a personally responsible human being, if every individual did that, the earth would change tomorrow. It would be a totally different place, right? It's not all about trying to save everyone and everything that's out there. It's about trying to transform ourselves. So it
ripples out, right? It's a ripple effect. It's going to happen naturally. Like you doing the work helps other people do the work, and then you can help other people who don't know how to do it yet. That's the whole point of being a community.
And so much of all this, I mean, it's not just physical creation. We're talking about, we get into consciousness as well a lot in what we're doing. And I mean, the facts are pretty much out there that we can essentially create reality in a way, in terms of through our consciousness, through thought. And it's not just a matter of like procreation and how things get passed down that aren't dealt with from the parents to the children. And it's not just from humanity to creating AI and that gets passed down that way, but it's literally the reality around us. Everything we're seeing, the wars, the climate change, the destruction of the environment, like we have control over that. And it can start with knowing ourselves and remembering ourselves better, like you're saying.
We can course correct right now.
Yeah.
Because we live in this kind of passive state, right? Like with disclosure, for example, it's as if people want the government to tell us that disclosure is happening. Like we need mom and dad to tell us, but we don't.
No.
Yeah. So
it's just a power play. It's a power play structure, though. That's what they're used to in the society. It's like they're used to monoliths and bigger people in authority to tell them what truth is rather than them finding it themselves. And that's the problem.
Yes.
So I want to take a moment because we're around 2024 timeframe in Young's story. I met Young in 2024. And speaking of disclosure, I met her through joining this group under the New Paradigm Institute, Citizens for Disclosure in Virginia. So do you want to share a bit about that now, or are you not quite there yet in your story?
Oh, yeah. Oh, sure. I mean, because I'm like, and I don't know. I was just it was like so weird because then synchronicities led up. It's like back to back to back to back. Because then I was like, oh, NPI, what is this? And I was like, I want to join this chapter. And then Anthony, I didn't go to the first like meeting, I don't think, but the second one, he like did it in North Chesterfield, like where I live. And I came, and Kate came, and then I know like Jason and Ben, and we were there, and I was like, oh my God, this is so exciting because it's finally going to be something different. We're going to get this out because I can't stand when people try to gaslight me or anyone else that are experiencers. I'm tired of this. This needs to come out because we all know it. They're lying. So it was just really cool to get involved. And I'm like, I love it. I love going and just helping Anthony wherever I can. Because, I'm the co-lead, but it's just like going to table at any of these events is so cool, and talking to people and getting people to be more aware so that they can seek the information. Because it's like, we're not recruiting people. We're giving people information they have to choose to seek on their own, right? Because they can figure this out. And like, that's the all that we want for any of these people is just like, how about you do some digging and then stop like hold your disbelief, like Chris Ramsey says, and just like actually like maybe be more open and realize that actually this information has been in front of your face. You just refuse to look at it. So it's like super cool. I don't know. I love New Paradigm Institute. I love Danny Sheehan. I'm like, it was weird going there and meeting Danny that day when we all were there for November 13th, was it?
Yeah, for the UFO hearing in Congress.
And I'm like, so many synchronicities in the line with people, and like, then like getting to talk to Danny and Jim And I got to meet Robert Salas. I ate with him that day and he told me about his experiences. And I was like, what? That's weird. Cause we were just talking about things. And he was like, well, you should read the book, The Dual Soul Connection by Susie Hansen. And I was like, oh, I would love to read this book. And so I read it, which y'all both have to read it. Everyone should read this. And I messaged him not that long ago. I messaged Rob or Bob, whichever one he wants to go by. But I messaged him. I was like, I finally read it. And it's just really crazy because sometimes some of the words she would say or the references she would say, because I talk a lot about, and like a lot of things when I explain stuff, I relate it right back to nature and talk about like us being in a river, which she also has mentioned in there, which was so strange. And like a lot of her phrasing, I'm like, this is like, it feels like it's like, how does she know this? You know, it's like so weird. And going through the book, like really helped me understand a lot about my own experiences. And he ended up like forwarding my message to him to Susie. So now I'm supposed to talk to Susie at some point because she wants to talk to me. So I'm like really excited.
Nice.
This is just so weird because I'm like, this is so synchronistic and how cool this is. I'm like, I'm so grateful.
That's amazing.
He's a cool man.
Do you mind sharing like how do you, because I mean we were just saying, and this is a common theme of conversation in this field, how important it is to have like disclosure on personal individual sense, but at the same time you and I are also part of this group that's pushing for governmental disclosure and trying to raise the public's awareness so they can actually get involved in having a voice in that process. How do you balance those two things, and how do you think experiencers and the general public, even members of the UFO community, should be thinking about it, like from your perspective?
Well, it's a hard dance, let me tell you, because being an experiencer, you want it now, but like you get mad at people and you're like, I don't want to talk to you, you're stupid. But it's like you can't be like that, right? You got to find balance, and it's like you got to meet people where they're at. And honestly, I'm like grateful for again the work that I've done, and like because I'm like, you want credentials? Well, I got them. So like, you gonna listen to me now? Like maybe will you? Because I'm not a crazy. I can tell you that. Um, so it's like, I think that's a part of it too. It's like, well, the more you can meet them on their level on like what they do know and then pull them in deeper is like going to be part of it. So like showing them the legislation, going to websites they haven't even searched that's been public forever, right? Like congress.gov, because a lot of people don't even go there, right? They don't look at anything. So like that's a major part of it. And me doing this on the side and like while I'm still like looking for a new job right now because this administration cut my job. So it is what it is. But we all knew this was gonna happen because crazy people. But I was in the Department of Defense. So I'm in like I was working there in one of the core places. I went in the Pentagon multiple times because I had access, right? I was doing this, right? And I'm like, you can be these people with credentials, like they have people multiple times mentioned too, like all these whistleblowers, and you're from there, and they're still going to gaslight you again, and then be like, oh, I want more of this, I want more proof again. And that's when I have to tell people, I'm like, well, I don't know how much proof I can give you when I've met all your criteria, or these people have met all your criteria. When are you going to meet criteria for you, like to actually be the one that's a true scientist and seek the truth and be curious and understand that there's more things than you think, right? So like, again, do the searching and the digging. Here are the websites. Here's the pamphlets of information you can go through. You can talk to lots of people, right? It's not that hard. It's just like finding the motivation, which again is going to start when you start thinking about you and how you show up for other people and working through the things you already have going on. Most of the people that you talk to though, like at these table events, it's like they are experiencers and they're just scared to talk about it. So that's another thing. They're just afraid. And I get that. Like I'm afraid right now. I'm like, I've never done this before. I've never been on a podcast talking about this. Like what, but it's like just finding that commonality with them and then helping them find the next step, because they're going to end up doing it anyways. They're going to be more curious. Even the people that you fight in battle, like some people at the tables are contrarians, they just want to be all say the same, hook, line, and sinker that we've heard a million times. It's just false. Like a storybook, like a broken record. But even then, when you combat them with the facts, because there's nothing that they can counter you with, then that makes them think again too, and that might push them to dig deeper too. So I think it's like just constantly having to, in this way, understand that there's going to be always those people that are going to be haters just because they're uncomfortable with themselves and they have deep insecurities that no one can fix them. And just recognizing like there's never, you're never going to be enough for what they want of you. And you're just going to have to accept that, like, and get over that as well. Because it just is what it is. Like, again, and this is one of my favorite examples that I'll use. You people pretend like racism isn't real, that you pretend like it's gone, that it's just nope, it's nowhere in sight, but it's clear, it's real. And I'm like, I'm an experiencer of that too. I can tell you that, but they'll deny it straight to my face. I'm like, so maybe for people of color it might be easier, but a lot, as you notice, like native, like a lot of our people are very secretive, like especially indigenous people, because of like just again the thievery that we've experienced with the settler colonial violence and the genocide of our people. But also Black and brown communities are not the first people to be talking about UFOs or UAPs in no different manner than our own tribes, because of the way in which this dominant society constructs the truth. Only these people can tell the truth. Only these people feel comfortable enough to then be going on camera and saying these things, right? Because they're persecuted and they need to survive even harder than these people, right? So it's like, that's a big deal. That's why you don't see, even in UFO circles, very much diversity, right? You don't see a lot of our faces in these places and spaces either. But that's because they're uncomfortable even more so.
You're helping change
I'm
it.
trying, because I'm like, and I have the privilege to do that. I have weaponized my entire identity my whole life to survive. I do it now all the time. I'm like, because that's all I can do to help other people who don't have all the privileges that I have now ascertained, gained, or maintained right now.
Yeah.
That's just what it is.
And before we started recording, sorry, Young, go on.
You go ahead. No.
Well, you're just making me think about, the amazing conversation we had before we started recording. And part of what we were talking about is how, in First Nations communities, there's so much powerful information and knowledge about all of this, but it's kept secret deliberately to protect it, right? And that there's a lot of First Nations people who don't feel comfortable coming out and sharing these things because it gets taken away. It gets taken away from them and it gets changed and it becomes maybe even inaccurate or misrepresented. So there is so much potential for a community to hear the full diversity of experience, of human experience among so many different populations of people, because it's first of all a boys club. It still is a boys club and it still is a white club predominantly. Yep. And I agree with you that the representation of the variety and diversity of stories is so incredibly important. So that leads to my next question for you. What is next for you in what you want to create, what you want to achieve? Like, even if it's just a thought or a dream or an imagining right now, what do you think is coming towards you next that's going to help you share your perspective in all the things all the things that we've been talking about during this episode? You have so much to give and so much to offer.
Oh, thank you. Stop it. Don't do that. You're
It's true.
No. I'm just the crazy, right? I don't know nothing.
No, you're not.
I think because right now, like I've been pulled to move. So I think because I need to get away from the East Coast, and I do go out West, like in the summertime to see my family out there too, just to like touch base with them because I don't get to see them that often. But I've been pulled to like move to Phoenix, and like that's a synchronistic thing that I keep saying is like that I need to go to Superstition Mountain, which is I've been pulled to. And I'm like, because my family out there, we talk about this all the time too, because we see stuff on all the time together, or like they'll see it and they'll tell me, what they've seen. And like I think that I have to now, because before, for instance, when I went to Oklahoma, it was the first time I left a place that I knew, right, and went on my own, but it was scary and I didn't really want to do it, right, but it helped me grow. Now this moving will be for the first time of my own volition, and I think I have to now in order to help move myself forward in general, especially in this, because I think there is something calling me from there. And that's a place where I feel like, I don't know, I just always liked it there. And I think it's just because the atmosphere, it's different people too. Like it's not, like not even that there's more like Native people in general. Like, so you feel like less standoutish or, in general. And I'm like, it's not like I really stand out here, I guess, anyways, because I'm like, there's lots of mixed people, but it's cool that there's lots of other Native people. That's what I liked about Oklahoma too. Like in general, we're like more predominant, but it's just the scenery, the environment's more pristine still and not over like run by people and places and things that have built on top of what we have. Cause like here as first contact people, we have like hardly any of our land left, hardly anything left at all, right? We don't really have a lot at all left at all. We don't, people are just now working on language revitalization. We barely like have like 400 acres left to our name, you know, while everyone lives around us and then takes away all of our agency. So it's like out there, it feels way more open still. And like there's less dominated spaces that you can go and like be just in nature and just in silence for once. And that's what I like. Cause like, you know, here in the mountains here, you can do that, but it's again more so on privatized land because they own everything. Our own tribes don't own half of our sacred places at all here. Even if there's any left, like it doesn't matter. Like they're gone, they're taken. And I'm like, we would have to like buy them back or bully our way to get them back through the Supreme Court, you know, like multiple litigation cases with like Oneida and like other major court hearings for tribes to assert their sovereignty and gain their land back. And I'm like, out there, it just is more open. People are more open in general. And like, it is more common, like, cause it is like Roswell Central, like, which I got to go to, was fantastic. Loved it. But it's like out there, that's like a major sightings area in general. And it's like, it's just more common in everyone's vernacular than here too.
That's wonderful.
It's starting to get that way again, you know, but you know, especially in the DC area, but it's still not talked about really because this is like, that's still for me, that's still the Jim Crow South in a lot of ways. And a lot of people are still like a little ignorant and less wanting to learn. So I'm like, that's kind of what's pulling me. And I think that's what's like my next step in me on this journey is going to be, where something new will be revealed to me for the first time. So I'm really excited.
That's very exciting. That's very exciting. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. So be sure to keep us posted because we would love to have you back, you know, on the podcast again and talk more about, you know, the work that you're doing and where you're at with your journey and, you know, the things that you want to share, because you really do keep having the spider web visualization and you're the spiral in the middle and all the threads that are coming out from the spiral, all these themes and, you know, areas of knowledge and wisdom that you're learning and sharing with other people. So yeah, you're definitely a spider woman. I love it.
Yeah. Before we go, I want to share my experience with Young, which happened in February of this year, I believe. I was in Richmond because my sister lives there too, and Young and I wanted to do like our own form of, like, some people would call it CE5, but human initiated contact, without any sort of formalized structure. We both kind of did our own meditative practice, and we were sitting out in freezing cold. I think there was snow on the ground. We were next to, was the James River? One of the rivers. Yeah, the James River in Richmond, kind of like a less polluted area. So there was a better view of the sky. A clear night. And we just brought 2 chairs. We were sitting and just chatting. And after doing our meditations, and nothing happened for like the first maybe 4 hours. Nothing happened around us. We were just, at that point, we just started chatting. And Young, as you can tell, has a lot of amazing stories. So I was listening to her stories. I was listening to her talk about her tribes and her grandmother and their experiences and what she had experienced in talking to them about their history. And I'm sitting there just blown away by this. And that was actually the first time I heard about Spider Woman and all that. Like, I didn't even know about this. So we're sitting there and we're in this, like, at least this is how I remember it. We're in this like deep moment where Young was really like sharing from her heart about some of this. And at this point, I'm like losing sensation in my body parts from how cold I am. Like, I'm like borderline frostbitten. We had been sitting out there for 4 hours and I'm already wearing like multiple layers. I have 2 layers of gloves on, wool socks, and like boots on. I think Young was just chilling like without gloves, and she was like, that's nothing. And I love the cold, but I was freezing. And I was thinking, like, man, in my mind, I was like, oh, nothing's really going on. Maybe we should call it soon. And almost like around the same time I had that thought, while Young was in this deep moment of sharing, I'm looking over her shoulder, looking at her. And then over her shoulder, I see, like, probably around 40, 45 degrees up, I see this thing appear out of nowhere. It looked like an amorphous blob of light that was probably like the size of a full moon. Like that's how big it was. The size of a full moon and the brightness of a full moon, if not brighter. And it just appeared out of nowhere, and it started like falling like a leaf falls down towards the horizon. So yeah, at arm's length, it was probably like a little smaller than my fist. Like that's how big it was. And it's just kind of like fluttering down slowly. It takes like 30 to 40 seconds to make it all the way down beyond this hill that was behind us. And the whole time I'm watching it, and my eyes are like this big, and I'm just like, oh my God, oh my God. And Young is not even flinching. She's just staring at me like with a smile on her face. And I'm just like, oh my God, like look behind you. And she's like, and then the whole thing like finishes, and I'm just like in shock and in awe. And it's the most amazing thing I'd ever seen, like the most truly anomalous thing I had ever seen. And I was just like, Young, like what, like why didn't you turn around? And I think you said that was for you. I think that's what you said.
Telling me this, I remember this story. Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it is just for that other person. That's amazing that you knew that, though. That's such important wisdom, like holding space for someone else to have their experience. You're part of it, but it's not about you. I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, that's how it's always going to be, right? It's like nothing is ever going to be like just for one person, because we're a family together. Like we are a community of people, and like that's why we're together in the first place. So everything has its right moment and time for you to gain new knowledge for a reason, not for everyone to consume it all at once. Like we've been
all our
saying,
relations, like all our relations, yeah, of the interconnectedness of everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. This is
I also want to thank Young. I want to thank Young for turning me on to Hellier, which I then shared with Sinead. That was all Young.
Yes. Very, very cool show. Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
My God.
All right. Well, there's so much more we could get into.
I know.
We're already running over 2 hours now. Young, I think Sinead would second this. We would love to have you back on. I would love to get deeper into like your ancestral traditions and whatever you're open to talking about, and their lore and their experiences. You mentioned the star people earlier, but we kind of interrupted you. So I would love to get into all of that.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, that's just what I call them. It's like, this is the star people. It's like, well, they're just there, and they've always been there. They're going to be watching. That's what they do. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure y'all notice that that's your natural behavior, is like you observe a lot of people and things before you even interact with your space around you. And I'm like, it's just, there we go. Hello. Like, it's like, we're just like them.
So I'm going to give you a chance. You've already imparted so much wisdom onto the audience. And I want to ask you if there's any departing words of wisdom you'd like to share for the world.
My closing question, exactly.
Wow, this is hard. Don't y'all put me on the spot. I think what I would say is, even though you might be in a river, like stuck in a river, like on land, find your way back to the ocean. Whatever that means for you.
I love that.
Because remember, that's where it all comes from. All the water that we even have. And water is intelligence. And language is water. Everything you say has a difference and makes a difference in the wave, right?
I love that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Young, thank you so much for doing this. You killed it. Way to go.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. It's been a pleasure. It's been our pleasure. So thank you so much. And looking forward to having you on again soon.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to know you guys, and I can't wait for the next time.
It was wonderful.
And thank you to the audience for hanging in there. Please like and subscribe to our channels, our socials, give us a follow, share this far and wide. It's not every day we get to speak with such an amazing woman. So there's a lot of people who would really love what she has to say. So thank you.